Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday, September 9th, 2025 meeting of the Planning Commission. If you'd rise and say the pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item on the agenda are upcoming meetings and activities. On Tuesday, September 16th at 6:30, the Board of Historic and Architectural Review meeting will be held here. On Tuesday, September 16th at 7:30, the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting has been canceled. On Monday, September 22nd at 3 p.m., the Town Council Committee meetings will be held. And Tuesday, September 23rd at 6 p.m., a special Planning Commission meeting will be held here. On Wednesday, October 8th at 6:30, Town Council meeting, excuse me, and on Tuesday, October 14th at 6:30, the next Planning Commission meeting. You want to go next? Public. The next item on the agenda is public comments. Is there anyone wishing to speak? No one has signed up, but you can still do so. All right. There being none, the public comments section is closed, and I'll open for Planning Commission comments.
I have one. I gave y'all each of all a packet that I mentioned last month, but this is just where I've been collecting data out of the different subdivisions that have been published in the paper and where I can gather the data. Tammy and Mark have looked at this, so there's some missing data in there. So if any of y'all can fill in that data or have the motivation to fill in that data or can use your resources to get that data, I'd like to see this as we wait for the Tischler bias study to come back. But I'd like to see how we look at it because this is all the stuff that's been published with the developments. And so there's a few missing things. The things with all the X's in them are subdivisions that have already been accounted for in the school numbers, according to Tammy and Mark, that have already been accounted. And so they, even though those developments are not completed, but those students have already been accounted for and not accounted for in the new numbers since all of this development stuff has taken place. So anything you can fill out for me, give me those back. I'll get them on the chart and then print them out again and give them back to you if you want them. The second part of this was numbers that Herb DeGroff had given me on school numbers. You can see from 2015, 19, 24, 25, where they've been sort of monitoring and tracking. You can see the addition of all the schools. And then in the last page is the information that Ms. Briggs gave us in the June meeting about current enrollment, current capacity. So I'm just trying to gather all this data as we look at subdivisions and keep a running list of things that are going along so that we'll actually know how many students are coming and going based off of subdivision counts. So that's all this is trying to do, is track it so we can see where things are coming from or what's at least being projected out of these developments.
Thank you. Are there any other Planning Commission comments?
Yes, Vice Chairwoman, may I have a few comments?
Okay.
Bear with me for a second. I'm trying to conserve my battery. All righty. Well, this is a wonderful meeting, and I want to thank Dr. Pope for those words. That kind of feeds into what I just want to talk about for just a moment. I was also fortunate that Dr. Bevan mentions a couple things as I was coming in, and fortunate to see that we have an attorney present tonight, so that's good. I just want to touch on a couple things, and so I think the Commission has a pretty good understanding of where I stand on zoning and density and special use permits and the like, especially as it relates to growth. And we just recently went through the Greenwood Homes submission for the promontory, and maybe you saw the council's machinations on that. While I didn't support it, I do sincerely look forward to working with the developer through this body and the town council to positively ensure it's another wonderful Smithfield community that is added. I just want to touch on a personal note as well, and so I want to call it a personal note because I want to say that I do appreciate the personal pride and personal nature with which you take your appointments. I suspect that you recognize the same in me, and I recognize it in you too. So I want to commend you for that. As you know, I wasn't elected to, or I don't believe that I was elected to come in and participate. I believe I was elected to come in and improve things. And improving a town as wonderful and beautiful as we have is difficult. But I'm really proud to be a part of this commission, and I think I have a fairly unique role on here. And I deemed that after a 6-1 vote that I need to have some reflections, and I think I did that. And I don't think anything changed as far as my perspective when I did that, but it led me to think about influence and how we progress through getting things done. And I thought about proactive work and things like that. And I do want to say also on the planning staff that, and I may not have recognized it for what it was. It took me some months to recognize, and I'll unfortunately default to the new guy thing. But until I'm in the majority, I'm going to claim new guy. A majority of older folks, that've been here longer. But would like to commend the planning staff on a really proactive and aggressive approach to updating a lot of boring stuff that's really hard to read. So thank you for that, and that's kind of what I want to talk about. So I went back and I looked at the documents that govern the Planning Commission, and I started on our webpage and flipped through those, and there's not really a lot of guidance in there as far as like what must the Planning Commission do. What is your mission? There's some stuff in there, and there's a lot of black and white regulations and whatnot. Then I got into the zoning constitution. I got in there, and I just want to share a couple things there. I didn't know where to start on where to read. When I got this position, it's kind of a trial by fire. I think Dr. Bevan mentioned as I was walking in that, like a little boot camp sort of thing for day one. He's a very experienced, but a little boot camp session before day one might be in order. So, what I want to talk about kind of is improvements and opportunities for that and what we have here. And I would implore us all to refresh ourselves on these roles of the Constitution I'm going to talk about, and reflect on the work that's been done and the work that we still have yet to do, and really think about the work future commissioners have to do. And I just want to touch on a couple things. So the very first one is the ordinance. So this is zoning constitution is designed to achieve the following goals and objectives: promote the health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the citizens of the town of Smithfield. And it goes on to say, create and maintain conditions, social, economic, lots of good words. If you skip down to the third one, it says to provide for town growth that is consistent with the efficient and economic use of public funds and environmental quality. Okay, so I'll bring up some questions related to that in a moment. And to promote the creation and expansion of land uses that will be developed with adequate highway, utility, health, education, and recreational facilities. And then finally, number 11, to protect against the following: overcrowding of land, undue intensity of noise, air and water pollution. But I highlighted to share undue density of population in relation to community facilities existing or available, danger and congestion in travel and transportation, loss of life, health, or property from fire, flood, panic, or other dangers. Now, I bring that up, and I'm not claiming that we're not doing those things. I'm not suggesting that at all. But I'm suggesting maybe a reflection on that for all of us to think, is there ways that we can do that in a different way? And one thing that came to mind is, does this commission have the resources that it needs? Much was made of, Dr. Pope mentioned it already just before as the meeting kicked off, much has been made about the county's study on growth. And I presented some things about that in our most recent town council meeting as it related to the promontory. But the town council didn't really seem interested in understanding the impact of cumulative planned growth before approving that most recent project. But what occurred to me is maybe this is a resource, or maybe there are resources that I don't know about that this commission needs. And, to me, I feel like this understanding of cumulative growth, especially with where we're at a really peak level of where we think we might end up, it might behoove this commission to have a better understanding of that. I have a growth management aspect in what I do. So I'm just curious as to, and it doesn't require an answer tonight. I don't claim to know the answers, but I am the new guy with new perspective, and I see that maybe we could do some things. Maybe we could add some additional depth to our recommendations if we had more data. Maybe this commission has been denied resources in the past because of funding. I don't know if this commission has tried to initiate studies in the past before because we wanted data. But if you look at the Constitution that we have, it implores us to do these things. So I want to say if there's a lack of resources on the commission, I would like to support fixing that, even if it's 6-1 and I'm the one, because I think it's unnecessary. But if this commission votes for it, I would commit to pitching it or giving a very strong explanation as to why I would it. But I would try to take the resource to the council and get funding for it if there are resources that this commission needs and are missing. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other planning commission comments?
The only thing I'll add to that is when I moved here in 2005, my memory's not good on this, but 2007, 2008, there's a Norfolk water deal, and I don't even, Tish Bias or whoever they had programmed to give us growth data at that time was saying we were going to increase population by 20 to 30% in the county. They needed this $145 million water deal from Norfolk. We did it. They passed it on through the Board of Supervisors. And here we sit 15 years, 20 years later and not even using a percentage of it. Or y'all can probably give me the data, but my guess is we're probably using 25 to 30% because the growth never came. So I've seen their predictions be wrong, grossly wrong, but I'll also admit all of these developments had not been approved at that time. And so, now the developments have come through, and that's part of collecting the data, because not only when you look at the chart, it's not only collecting school data, it's collecting, how many units are in there, so we can have at least some tally of roughly how many units are being added by all of the developments that are there. So it gives you a better idea, at least actual growth numbers of what the developments can actually do while they are predicting growth. So, I got frustrated back in the Norfolk water deal days of why are we spending so much money on a Norfolk water deal when our water needs aren't there? And here we are 15, 20 years later and still don't have the needs for that. So they've been wrong in the past, and so they're not always super accurate.
Yeah, and I appreciate that perspective, Dr. Pope. That's wonderful, and thank you for sharing that with us because, it's a challenging decision to make. If a study costs $32,000, and we have to put taxpayer dollars into that, we have to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars, of course. I suggest we probably have a budget or establish room in our budget for things that we would like to do to help us make a more informed decision if some of those things are missing. I want to say that, when I mentioned not being elected to come in and participate, the planning staff, we show up every month and we sit down and this meeting is locked and loaded, ready to go. I mean, we have an agenda, and I had to prepare an agenda for my volunteer organization last night, and let me tell you, or for a meeting last night, it was painful. And I did it in the military too. And I know this type of tedious work that has to be presented to literally thousands of people, if you count all our citizens, is very tedious. What I mean about when I don't intend to come in and just participate is perhaps there are some things that, if you had a lofty idea at some point or a proactive thing that you thought this commission could do, I'm just imploring everyone, if there's something more, an improvement that we could do, the way we could pass our resource to the town council better to make a more informed decision, that I want to support that, and I'm here for that, so thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, I was remiss at the beginning of the meeting. Over here to my left is Kyle Eldridge with Sands Anderson Law Firm, and he is being a very worthy substitute tonight in the absence of our town attorney. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so Planning Commission comments is closed. Ms. Clary?
Yes, ma'am. Are you ready for item 4, which is a discussion item for 1282 Smithfield Plaza, the Kroger Company?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
Please.
you. The applicant is seeking a special use permit, Article 3JC17. This would be for a service station within the existing parking lot of the Kroger. There will be 5 pump stations and feature an 8-foot by 22-foot kiosk for the attendant. The fuel center will operate from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. daily. The applicant will need a zoning permit and fee payment for this structure, and then also ECO review from the Planning Commission. This is a discussion item, and the applicant is present. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to speak on this? Please come up and state your name and address.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My name's Jason Sansmeyer. I'm with Kroger. I'm part of our Kroger construction team in the Mid-Atlantic Division. I'm from Roanoke, Virginia. Do you want my full address?
Yes, please.
5725 Fieldview Drive, Roanoke, Virginia, 24019.
Thank you. I can send you a birthday card now.
All right, thank you. Thanks for having us. Thanks for considering this item on your agenda. Again, I'm with Kroger. We would like to, well, first of all, I love the town of Smithfield. Kroger is pleased to be part of the town, to have a presence here in Smithfield. Gas station is something we would very much like to offer our customers. We find that our customers find the gas station, coupled with our loyalty program and our customer incentives, something that we find our customers like very much. So we are hopeful and excited to be able to offer that to our customers, and so I just appreciate your consideration to allow us to do that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, this is a discussion item. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Sinsmeyer? That's right.
I have one.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. There was a station there previously, and you're putting this new one in the same place.
Correct.
Are there any underground tanks that remain from the previous one?
No,
Do you know?
when we took over the Farm Fresh location and they closed, they demolished and removed that station in its entirety.
Including the underground tanks?
Underground tanks, everything was removed.
Okay, very well.
Yes,
Thank you.
But to your point, this gas station will pretty much go with probably some minor pretty much on top of where that gas station was originally when that was there.
Okay. I do appreciate the updated landscaping that you're
Yeah,
offering.
we'll try and do everything we can to make it look nice. We're aware of some of your building requirements. Our proposal would include what we think would be a aesthetically pleasing brick face kiosk that would match the Kroger store, earth tone color scheme for the canopy and kiosk that I think would blend with the area very well.
Thank you. That answered one of my questions.
Okay.
Does anyone else have anything to ask the applicant?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
On your site plan, you have the propane cage up
Yes, sir.
front. I'm wondering if that's right on Route 10. Is there a place to move that and tuck it into a corner and get it out of view of Route 10? And as you're going to be riding down the road, you're going to look over and you're just going to be looking at the back of a propane cage.
Yeah, I believe we're putting in some islands, so we could probably find an island there.
Or even over by where the tanker truck will empty his fuel into the tanks. I mean, it looks like there's some spot maybe in the corner over there, but it just sits right out in the middle of the parking lot, so to speak, but
I
right
think
on
we
Route
are,
10.
and we're happy to consider that, and we'll move it. I mean, obviously, we'll go through planning commission during the permitting process, and we'll do whatever we can to accommodate that. Something like that certainly isn't a deal breaker, so if there's a better location for it. I think we are trying to increase that buffer between the fuel station and the road to provide even greater landscaped area, so trying to make it as aesthetically pleasing as possible. So we'll put that in a place that
And then there's
satisfies you guys.
a concrete pad over there, but it's unclear what's on the concrete pad. It says it's a 5-foot by 12.5-foot concrete pad, and
So-
it doesn't really say if there's
so-
something on it or if it's,
So if you don't like the propane cage there, we've been doing DEF units, which a lot of our customers like, which the DEF fluid, diesel exhaust fluid additions. So typically, we have 3 pieces of equipment around our fuel center: an air machine, which you're probably pretty familiar with, the propane cage, and the DEF unit is something fairly new that we're doing. So that would be a fairly large-sized cabinet to go on that 5-foot by 12-foot pad. So if you're thinking you don't like that located where we're showing it, we can show that elsewhere as well.
well, the only problem is you're just right up on Route 10, so when you look over,
I
all you're gonna
understand.
be doing is
I
looking at
understand.
that. So if there's ways you can tuck it in, hide it, do other things with it, it would just be better if that's not our line of sight.
I'll go back to our civil planners and say that we would like to find a little bit more discreet location for that.
Yeah, I don't know how you access it. I don't have a diesel vehicle, so I don't know how
It's just, you
often you
just
have to do
pull
it.
up
but-
it's just pull up and, I don't know, you know, obviously diesel trucks, or boats, and I don't know.
Yeah.
People might be pulling boats and stuff like that, or equipment, heavy equipment.
Yeah, the only other thing I see on the site plan that gives me a little bit of concern is, you know, we've had a gas station there before, we've cut in and out of there. It looks like, at least on the, I'll call it the drive-through alleyway to access the parking lot, that the truck will go through and then, you know, exit, enter, exit, et cetera. But there's no curb and gutter. There's currently curb and gutter there to at least define a driveway so people aren't just cutting through. But if you removed your curb and gutter in front of these pumps, you're gonna have people just, I'm gonna say randomly pulling out into this drive aisle. And it just looks like it's gonna be very chaotic of where cars are coming in and out of that.
This is just a preliminary site plan for the application. The applicants are here in order to obtain the special use permit for the use. This is not an approved site plan. Once we do have those elevations, we would bring them back before
Just want
Planning
them to
Commission.
consider that because that's a very highly used entrance and exit. And so it makes it difficult if you're just gonna have no curb and gutter and people can just pull 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 routes into the lane at various, so it's just gonna create a little bit of chaos.
You're talking like between the fuel center and the store, that
Yes.
direction?
There's a drive aisle in
Yes.
there that you can turn in
Correct.
halfway in. You don't have to go all the way to the shopping center and turn. You can turn halfway in. All these cars will be exiting or entering and exiting through this drive aisle. If you don't have a curb to direct them where you want them to go, you're just gonna have people randomly turning in and out.
Okay.
You see what I'm, do you understand?
I do.
Do you have
I
your
do.
plan? I mean, but I
Um,
just feel like that's gonna create a lot of chaos.
Just trying, let me pull out my plan to see, because I thought we were showing some islands.
We have the islands for the pumps, but
exactly.
nothing in.
Yeah, we can come up with some options, as we go through the planning commission review. I think we could come up with some options to direct traffic a little bit better and slow down traffic and not have it to be such a free-for-all.
Well, I'm just giving you some advice now of what I'd like to see, only because that'll hold you up from if you do actually bring a site plan and we're like asking for
Nope,
changes in the future.
I appreciate that.
But as far as having a gas station there, since there's one there before, it works very well. I don't have any problems with the gas station being sited at that location.
Thank you, Mr. Pope.
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Smith, I have a couple questions. The first, Ms. Clary, can you explain that one more time? We're having a discussion, so our decision points are going to come when?
So this is a special use permit for the use of a service station in order to use that use on this property. This is not an approved site plan yet. Again, this is the very beginning stages. We did not want the applicants to go through the engineering and site design when they need to get that special use permit in order to have that approved use.
So potentially our decision points are tonight, or if we decide to delay, whenever we decide to vote on it. and then the town council as well for the SUP, and then it'll come back, and that site plan will come back here.
No, remember, Virginia code has changed. Site plans do not come to the planning commission, but the entrance corridor overlay review would come, which is where you would see the elevations, colors, and materials.
Excellent. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yes, sir.
For new guys and those at home.
Me too, because I don't understand all of it.
Well, the bigger, kind of bigger scope question that I have for you, sir, is what does this fuel center offer resources, or is there something about this Kroger Fuel Center that brings something to our citizens that is missing? Or, you know, we have there's a number of new gas stations in the surrounding area and a number, you know, approaching us. So is there something about this, you know, the resources that are going to come to our citizens from this station?
I believe so, especially given the fact that there's not a big density of Kroger stores in the area. I'm not sure what the closest Kroger store is, but I believe it's not super close, if I'm correct. So I guess I can speak personally from my experience, because I've built a number of gas stations throughout our region. And anytime we build a gas station at a Kroger store where there's not a gas station or a Kroger store close by, our customers seem to be very excited about the opportunity to use their Kroger loyalty points, which is 10 cents off a gallon all the way up to $1 off per gallon when they buy gas, you know, based on their purchases at the Kroger store. So I do find that our customers are very excited when we give them the opportunity to use those points. Because I've been in plenty of situations where I've met a lot of customers that I got to drive 20 miles or 30 miles to use my Kroger points, and our customers are willing to do that. So when they don't have to drive 20 miles to use their points, they are very excited about that. So we do find it's a extremely enticing offering and a great benefit for our customers.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Clary, in that ECO review, will there be a traffic assessment with that or no?
VDOT is not requesting one, as there was previously a gas station present at the property.
Okay. So for the rest of the commission, then, I would just ask if you were around when there was a station up there in the past. I mean, I find that to be one of, you know, quite a hectic intersection in our town, coming in and out of Kroger and across the street there as well from it. So when there was a gas station there, you know, I see it, you know, I'm curious if it will add traffic, because if it's the same customers that are getting their groceries anyway, is it additional traffic? But maybe people buy gas more than they buy groceries. But just based on your experience in the past, was there a traffic problem with it in the past? Was it difficult to have a gas station there or no?
I don't think it was an additional traffic problem.
Yeah.
There was some confusion of who has right of way, and I'm not waiting, and I'm cutting in, and the light's green, and I'm U-turning and getting through that intersection. It was that confusion, not a confusion over 100 cars and 50 spots.
Do you think that the current layout has improvements to that, especially now that we got the 2 turn lanes coming out? I think that helped, and the light adjustment appears to have helped.
I think that'll definitely help improve this. The only thing I want to make sure of is that curb and gutter goes in there to prevent the chaos of who's turning left to get to the pumps, who's turning right out of the pumps, who's got right of way, who's waiting, who's not waiting. I've been sitting here too long. Burger King's not exiting before I do. You know, all those things you run into when you try to beat the light there.
Well, I think it's great that you recognize that, because I'm sure earliest in the stage is the best time to do it. So, did you have something as well, Dr.
Well, I
Pevin?
was just going to say, I was here when the other gas station was here, and to me, the problem wasn't at the intersection. It was that the pumps were so tight. It was hard to, you know, if you've got people coming in from this side, from the far side, and there's no way I'd take a boat in there because there's just not enough space in there. So the congestion around the pumps to me, was a lot bigger deal than getting out. Once, you know, we could, and particularly with the changes in that intersection, so, and with signage and curbs and all the rest of that, but the flow was, the flow around the pumps was difficult, but, you know, we used those points and pumps a lot, so.
Thanks, sir. And last question, are you just going to have this kind of 3 flavors of unleaded and diesel, and then you mentioned DEF, or is there going to be any ethanol-free or kerosene, you know, other things that are?
No, right now, the plan would be gas and diesel. So your 3 grade, your regular, mid-grade, premium on the gas side and diesel.
And DEF or no DEF?
Well, we won't have DEF. DEF is kind of out of that
Tank.
little kind of separate stationary. It's still pump, you just pull up
Yep.
and you still pump it. It's just kind of a separate dispenser.
But you will have that or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks, sir.
I would like to follow up on what Dr. Pope brought up there. She brought up with the through traffic from the parking lot, along with what Dr. Belvin brought up. There are 12 parking spaces there, south of the pathway where the fuel truck would come in. Those 12 spaces, I suspect if you had to put a curb in there to prevent this throughway for parked cars, you know, from the parking lot, you would have to eliminate those 12 spaces. You see any indigestion with that?
Again, just so I'm understanding, you're talking like the spaces that would be between our fuel station and the store?
No.
Fuel station towards Taco Bell.
Yes,
So that would be to the south side of your
right,
drawing.
the south side of the station you're proposing.
Where the parking spaces are
Is
33.
the Taco Bell over here?
Yeah, yes.
You're kind of talking like right here?
No, it's different for me to see that.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I don't understand.
There are 12 spaces
Right
there.
there, right here.
Yeah, there's a distance, if you look at where your pass for the underground tanks is going to be, it's measuring 33.5 feet to the parking spaces.
Correct.
Well, those 12 parking spaces, you put in a curb there, I would suspect you would have to eliminate those parking spaces.
Yes, I would
Okay.
think so.
And I think it would be a good idea to, you know, to maintain order as far as motorists coming through there. I think it would be a very good idea to add a curb there.
I'm more worried about the 42-foot space on the west side of that. That's what I'm more worried about, traffic flow through that 42-foot. That's the drive aisle. The other one is a drive aisle as well,
Yeah.
but that's the confusing drive aisle.
Right.
Just
My
so I
thought-
understand, you're talking about this drive aisle here?
For me, yes.
Okay.
And mine is to the left
You
of
were
that.
talking about
Yes.
this one. I would say this would be less of a concern because your tanker trucks, we're probably talking 2, 3 deliveries a week, you know, pull in, drop, and gone as opposed to regular customers compared to the volume of traffic going through the fuel center. So I would be less concerned with the traffic through here. And I see Mr. Pope's concern with, you know, as traffic's exiting these and you got folks coming across and circulating to find parking.
There's an existing curb and gutter there as it stands now that helps at least delineate it. It's a question, can you
Yeah, I
work
think
within
you've got an
that
island too. So
guideline?
we can consider maintaining some of that island for traffic flow.
If it works for your engineering, that's the question.
Okay.
And that may cut down on parking too, so obviously, we gotta go back and talk to your folks about parking ratios and make sure we're not, you know, we're keeping parking ratios to where we need to be as well.
Your parking there seems to be adequate except Thanksgiving Day.
Right, about 2 or 3 times a year probably.
But that back left corner is tight now. I mean, somebody who drives a big truck, you know,
Okay.
where you're talking about 2 cars getting through there, if
Correct.
anybody's drifting
This
toward
is
the
an
middle,
entrance.
that's tight, and then coming
But I
around
think
that
we
corner
need
is
to-
really
it could be
tight,
an
where
exit as well. But if it's
the other
designated
side, the
entrance
33-foot
only,
side.
do not enter, then
I
you're
can't
not gonna
speak
have
to,
people trying
I'm not sure how Farm Fresh had their layouts.
a big
In terms of
I won't mention it.
the type of clearances Kroger likes to get, I mean, we do like to give plenty of room to get around the pumps as well as between the pumps. I know some gas stations are designed that if you have cars at each pump face to face, there's no room down between. We like to have our pump spaced far enough that if you had a car at both pumps, there's still room to pass between to kind of keep traffic moving. So we are aware of clearances and try and make it as welcoming as possible.
I'm sorry, Ms. Clary, I'll try to bring us back on track. I'm going to guess that if you turn your site plan here 90 degrees, you will alleviate a majority of the concerns we have for throughput and what we're trying to do here. And I'll try to get us back to special use permit. Do we want to do a gas station
an
here
excellent idea.
or not?
Well,
And,
but the issue is going to be is we're
yeah.
never going to see this again.
I understand.
For
Well, we
entrance
will.
corridor.
We'll see it for ECO.
But at that point, it's gone.
Yeah.
And we can't make recommendations to any changes or anything that we see.
Sure we can, because if we don't like the view from the street because they put a cage in the middle of our view and we don't like it, then we're going to tell them we're not approving it. So
But
you
as
still have
far
that
as
opportunity.
Site design and saying, hey, this doesn't look like it's going to work, we're not going to have any say on that. Whereas in the past, we would have. That's why I'm trying to get it all out on the table now.
I understand. And that's why I'm saying I'm doing the same thing. I think the 90-degree turn will take care of moving things to the right place
That
and
was
get
the way
it out of
Farm
the way.
Fresh had it before, it was perpendicular to what you have.
Yeah.
They did.
Vice Chairwoman Smith, I have a comment.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Yoko, for mentioning that. I think that probably would solve a lot of the problems. And, what I'm hearing is there was some problems with it before. Maybe they weren't that bad, but there's certainly a busy intersection now. There's no traffic study. This isn't going to make traffic better. Maybe it won't make it worse, but it's not going to make it better. So, the vote's for the use, but we can also, have other options. I mean, I don't know if you've received a wealth of feedback or you desire more feedback. I think Dr. Pope's right to give it to you now. But, if there's going to be a substantial change, maybe we're not ready to vote on it at this point.
I mean, I'm fine giving them the special use permit for the site. What bothers me is July 1st, we don't get to see it again.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying we have this opportunity and this opportunity alone.
I'm not a civil engineer, but I like to act like one.
But this is a preliminary site plan, so no matter what they come back with, it's still going to go away.
That's correct.
I mean, they can show us anything they want, but we don't get the final say on it. So rotating it, or, we have ideas, we have suggestions, but, I mean, I think it's good that you're talking about things now, but it's still, it doesn't, unless we, I mean, I agree with you. I think it's fine to have a gas station there, and I have some concerns about the configuration, but I don't know that we're going to get to say anything about that anyway.
Our representatives hear us.
Or what?
Our representatives hear us.
Exactly, and my thought is, yeah. And if we express our concerns to Ms. Clary, she's certainly going to take those under consideration. And your suggestion of flipping it is an excellent idea. I do have a question about parking spaces. If there's nothing sold at the kiosk, why would there need to be any parking spaces? I mean, it's not like
He's talking about parking spaces that they would be taking from the actual store, the requirements for the parking for the store.
but there
The
were,
regular store, because
Right.
you're taking parking, if you were going to take parking from the parking lot to put the gas station in, are you taking too many spots if you change the curbs?
Okay.
Then you've reduced the number of spots available for the store.
okay. Thank you.
I think to your point, we do sell a limited, we do sell some merchandise out of the kiosk
Okay,
at the attendant window,
right,
along with, a lot of this is dependent on what the locale allows in terms of pad merchandising, like if we can merchandise like motor oil and windshield
Water,
washer cleaning, if
yeah.
we're allowed to merchandise that on the pad. I know there's some locations in Virginia Beach that doesn't allow that, so that would be dependent on how much merchandising we can do. But we do sell some stuff, and we'll have lottery. So we always try and provide a couple parking spaces along with a handicap spot close to the kiosk for convenience.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion?
Vice Chairwoman Smith, I just have one
Yes.
last comment. Just in light of all that discussion, just from a big picture approach on this, as you're taking in all these comments, it sounds like to me a little bit bigger space might be better. And I would just like you to consider, our county, we have a lot of farmers pulling big trailers. We have a lot of fishermen pulling big boats. And when they're coming in to get 150 gallons of gasoline, if they're going to get 10 cents off of it or $1 off of it, they're going to want to come to your store. So being able to get our citizens and be able to take advantage of the benefit that you're saying you provide, our citizens really need to be able to have good access to this facility. So I would just encourage you to consider that. Thank you.
I guess to that point and to all the comments, I'm not as familiar with your internal processes. I know today we're trying to get approval just to have the gas station there. And then we got plenty more work to work with you guys. Ms. Clary's been a tremendous amount of help. Our plan is to put a plan in front of you guys, or whoever that may be, that makes everyone happy. We want to be here. We want to be here in such a way that makes sense to you guys. So whatever that process is, we've been working with Ms. Clary. We're going to continue that and try and come up with a plan that satisfies everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. So is there any more discussion regarding the special use permit? And is anybody at this point ready to make a motion? Oh, but you didn't say discussion. It's just discussion.
I believe we have a
So we don't-
public hearing coming up on the 23rd.
Right. Just discussion. Okay. Excuse me. I was a bit premature.
Wow.
All right. Any more discussion?
I'm sorry, I have one more question for Ms. Clary, Vice Chairwoman Smith. The additional data that was with the report, is that stuff that your department provided on the subsequent pages?
I'm sorry, right before the site plan?
Yes, ma'am.
No, that was provided by the applicant.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other
One last
questions,
question. Is there any other special signage that goes with this, or is it just, it speaks for itself because it's a gas station? Or are you trying to do any type of additional signage for Kroger in front of this?
I do understand that there are some signage restrictions. Typically, we would have a price sign or two on the canopy along with our Kroger lettering. We do have that monument out in front. I don't know if there'd be a possibility to add pricing to that. I don't know what the restrictions are. I'm told that there may be restrictions on what we can put on the canopy. So that would something, as far as the signage goes, that would be, we haven't gone down that road, I think, with Ms. Clary yet.
Probably not
but we
there
would-
yet, but
we
whatever you
have
would
to.
propose, put it on there, and then she will know by the sign ordinance what's allowed, what's not allowed, and what requires special use permit or special sign exemption.
Right, a variance, or we'll either
Well,
be
just want you
in
to be thinking about
compliance
that
or
as you go.
request a variance, or just change our design to comply.
Right. It's just one more step that sometimes slows people down in the process.
I know it, I've been there.
Okay.
Is there any more discussion? There being none, I'll close this section of the agenda. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, appreciate y'all's time.
Item number 5 on the agenda is a discussion item for an SUP for a commercial recreation facility at 1812 South Church Street. George Vansel is the applicant. Could we have a staff report, please?
Yes, thank you. The applicant is seeking an SUP, Article 3 IC6, for a commercial recreation facility offering jujitsu. This facility is designed as a membership-based program focused on veterans, law enforcement officers, trauma survivors, at-risk youth. It's therapeutic, educational, and rooted in resiliency building as their curriculum. They provide structured instruction, team-based learning, weekly peer discussions to give veterans and others a trusted environment to process trauma while developing practical skills. They will have approximately 2 employees and be open in the evenings Monday through Thursday, early mornings Monday and Wednesday, and Saturday mornings. The positives of this application: it would bring an additional business in town. It is not a by right use and does require an SUP. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a discussion item, but would the applicant care to speak? Please come and state your name and address, please.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening. Yeah, George Vansel. I'm at 772 Ledford Lane here in Smithfield.
Thank you.
You appreciate the opportunity. I didn't really prepare anything, nor did I think I had the opportunity to provide a few remarks. You have my letter. I think it kind of hits the high points on that. The only thing I do want to offer, and I just want to emphasize that this is specific community outreach, targeting on very specific groups: law enforcement officers, veterans, and trauma survivors. Of course, it's going to be available to others in the community, but those are the individuals, those are the groups that I am specifically targeting because of the transformative nature of jiu-jitsu that I've trained in for the past 20 years, both in my capacity as a prior naval officer and as a fairly new retiree. And so hopefully you look upon this with favor, and I'll just stand by for your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
So this is a discussion item. I'll open it for discussion by the Planning Commission.
I guess I'll start with the first question I've got is just related to the parking. You're saying you have classes of about 20 or so people in there, and I see about 13 parking spots without taking a bunch of spots from the restaurant.
Yeah, thank you. I specifically look for a really small place because it's important that this is an intimate group, a small group. I didn't want to go large. The parking seems adequate. We talked about it. No more than 2 classes a night. They're going to be staggered, obviously, in hour increments. The space probably couldn't safely hold more than 12 to 15 students per night. So I don't foresee or anticipate a problem with parking, but yeah, I'll leave it up to you, sir. About,
Good evening. My name is Vincent Carollo, 22 Main Street here. On behalf of George tonight, when we built Anna's Shops, my parents back early 80s, we've always had a tenant profile there that's been either medical and office. So as we get to today, or a few months ago, one of the things that we worry about tenant profile is obviously what you brought up is parking. But I've always had reciprocal access between the 2 lots that I own, between the shops and the restaurant. I hope that can be certainly continued to take advantage of. But yes, Mr. Vansel has explained to me that I guess they are staggered, depending on the participants and the enrollment. Sure, automobiles are going to come and go. They may drop off, drop off, or they may stay. But I think between the 2 lots, Anna's Restaurant and the shops, I've always given the green light for reciprocal access and reciprocal parking, which has always worked out.
I was happy to see you sitting there and with a thumb up instead of a thumb down whenever I asked the question. So,
but I'd be happy to answer any questions that certainly involves the location or the environment there.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Vice Chairwoman, just have a few questions and a comment. Well, I want to say, Mr. Kroll, I'm glad you had space in there for this. This is a wonderful resource that's coming to our community, so thank you. And Commander Vansel, I think that the parking, has to be managed, but I think it's a wonderful resource that you could bring to our community to focus on a therapeutic environment. Especially, I liked a place for youth as well. And The only question I really had was just to have some awareness of. I'm aware of, I think, one or two martial arts places in our kind of area, Smithfield, Carrollton. How many are there? What type of competition are you aware of, or from the commission? Just
Sure,
for
I
awareness.
actually have a small program at one of those facilities. It's the only one I know of in Smithfield. There is another one in Carrollton that is closing. Again, that's a completely different concept. Mine's not profit-based. It's community outreach. I don't make my money doing this stuff. I do other things. That's a large gym. They cater to, 3 years old and up. That's absolutely not my vision. And so a little bit different.
Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, this is a discussion item, so it will come back for, excuse me, a public hearing for the SUP. So if there's no other questions, I'll close this section of the agenda. We'll go on to item number 6, which is an ECO, or Entrance Corridor Overlay Review for 1018 South Church Street, Walls Insurance Agency. Jacob Walls is the applicant. Is anyone here to speak? I don't see anyone, but Dr. Pope?
Would you like a staff report?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Thank you. The applicant is seeking entrance corridor overlay review and approval to replace the existing 7-foot by 12-foot rear wooden deck with a 12-foot by 12-foot composite wood deck featuring light gray decking, white rail posts, black railings, white fascia decking boards. We do support this application with the condition that the applicant completes a zoning permit application and fee payment. Thank you.
Thank you. So, this is an ECO overview, and there were attachments. Looks like a bigger deck out back, but no one is here to speak on this. Is that correct? Not an applicant. All right, any discussion from the Planning Commission?
I don't have any problems with what he's doing. He's probably going to have to remove a bush, which is probably not going to even net affect his overall lot. So
Right.
I'm certainly in favor of whatever additions he'd like to do.
I had asked Ms. Clary earlier what it was going to be used for. She is unaware of the use, but that just made me think of, does it have a handicap ramp? But there is a handicap ramp in the front, so that would cover the Disabilities Act.
To me, it simply looks like an update, an improved update.
It does.
Vice Chairman Smith, I have a question.
Yes.
Didn't we approve another addition, a driveway
Paving.
change to this as well?
There was part of it, they were changing the frame of the rear porch. He was having a hard time getting a contractor, and so he wanted to go with this improvement instead.
The only question I had, does it change his parking capacity at all? It doesn't appear that it would.
No, it does not.
Okay, thank you.
So, we
You need
need
a
to
motion?
have a waiver for this.
I'll make a motion that we make a recommendation to town council to approve. Is it just
Planning
our?
Commission approves this.
Then I'll make a motion that we approve as presented with stipulations by staff as far as completion of a zoning permit and fee payment.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded to approve this as presented. Mark, would you call for that? I am so sorry.
Okay.
You didn't speak on this?
I usually call for the vote, but if you'd like Mark to call,
No, I'd like for you to do it.
thank you.
It's been a long time since I've been in this chair. Things have changed in 5 or 6 years.
Dr. Bevan,
Yes.
Mr. Bryan,
Yes.
Mr. Cutler,
Yes.
Dr. Pope,
Yes.
Mr. Yoko,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Smith.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, this has been approved. Item 7 is entrance corridor overlay review and PC waiver for 1200 Benz Church Boulevard, Riverside Health System. Ryan Haley is the applicant, but I don't see him. But would you like to present a staff report?
Yes, thank you. The applicant is seeking ECO review and approval. This is for the installation of 2 approximately 107 square feet illuminated raceway signs. They would be in various shades of green and white. They are refacing the existing 2 detached illuminated signs. They're approximately 31 square feet. The detached sign at Ben's Church Boulevard will be double-sided, and the other detached sign will be single-sided. A planning commission waiver is required for the operational sign, as it is currently non-conforming at 5 square feet. Again, this applicant will need a sign permit and fee payment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm the new guy. What's an operational sign?
It's the hours of operation.
And it's,
Is it referenced?
If you look at page 27 of the PDF, you see that there's the Riverside Health, and then the hours of operation Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., which is that smaller sign underneath.
What is that? But
That's what that is.
Well, are we discussing this? I don't have any problems with any of it, but I don't understand sign number 1. Why are you going to tuck a sign behind your building on that back road where there's no traffic?
That was my-
Why is sign number 1 even needed?
That was my comment.
And then why do we need the operational sign? Because there is going to be no traffic there. There's going to be minimal development over there that's not going to already know this is Riverside. I mean, you got the car wash going over there eventually. But I just don't see the purpose of why you need sign number 1.
The signs are existing, so they are refacing the old.
Is there a sign back there?
Yes.
All right,
that's what I was going to say. The only reason I would think of it because there's one there.
all right, that's fine. I don't really, it doesn't bother me as it's presented.
It's their funding, but I didn't see any need for it either. There's very little traffic on that road going in that direction to the rear of that facility. I didn't see the need for it either.
Right, and it currently dead ends. You have to turn left.
A lot of wildlife over there, squirrels, things like that.
Is there any further discussion or comments?
I'm just thrilled that they're utilizing a vacant building.
Do we need to make a motion?
Yes.
Does it say recommendation or does it say approval?
This would be approval, ECO approval, and the planning commission waiver approval.
Okay, then I will make a motion that we approve as presented as far as the 4 signs are done with the planning commission waiver for the operational sign, in addition to staff comments of needing a sign permit and fee payment.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Ms. Clary, would you
Yes.
call for a vote, please?
Thank you. Mr. Yoko?
Yes.
Dr. Pope?
Yes.
Mr. Cutler?
Yes.
Mr. Bryan?
Yes.
Dr. Bevan?
so this is a question for our attorney. I'm on 3 committees for Riverside. Should I just abstain? I'm not paid. They're all volunteer.
What are the committees?
One is a fundraising committee for the hospital here in Smithfield. One is a long-term health facility related to the nursing home, but throughout the whole region. And then I'm part of an emergency team over there.
And you receive no financial benefit from
No.
me and none of your family members?
No,
No, you don't have to abstain.
and I vote yes.
And Vice Chair Smith?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item 7 is closed. Item 8 is a public hearing for text amendment for landscaping for our Smithfield zoning ordinance, Article 9. Ms. Clary, could we have a staff report, please?
Yes, thank you. This is a proposed text amendment to Article 9C2E. This is removing the requirement for tree canopies on platted lots. This is in accordance with VA Code 15.2-961. We do suggest a favorable recommendation to Town Council on this application. Thank you.
And the intent of this is to bring us into compliance with state code.
That is
right?
correct.
So
Right.
does,
Are
so
there
does
any-
that mean state code got rid of tree canopies?
No, it still has the tree canopies. It just does not include that last item, which is for individual platted lots. So we still have our subdivision trees with our percentages based upon the density of the development.
So a lot like mine at the office doesn't require a tree canopy over residential, not commercial.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. And this was a public hearing, but no one signed
Sorry.
up. Oh, excuse me, I opened the public hearing. Thank you. No one has signed up, but would anyone like to speak? There being none, public hearing is closed. So I will open this up for Planning Commission comments and questions.
The only other question I have is, I think in Cypress Creek, when they built a house, I think there was a provision in all the paperwork that the developer had to provide 2 trees for the lot. Is that what this is eliminating now, or is that something the developer will do at the beginning, and then he'll still honor that, or it's required, not required? I don't know if the developer in Cypress Creek did it out of the goodness of his heart, or was he required to do it based on past ordinances that he had to provide 2 trees for every lot that he or she developed. But I don't know, I'm confused by why this is the way it is. It just seems a little silly. I don't understand it.
So the developer is still required to provide the subdivision trees and the street trees. These more than likely are going to be planted on the residential lots.
I understand you're bringing this up with state code, but it just seems like we could require more tree space if we want it, you know, in the sense of, I don't know, I'm very confused. Understand the developer needs to do it on common grounds, HOA grounds, streetscapes, whatever they need to do. But if they can't meet their tree canopy by that, what are they going to do? I would imagine they meet their tree canopy by donating trees to the houses built in order to satisfy their tree canopy needs. I don't know.
Well, there's also an off-site planting option if they can't meet their on-site plantings as well. Again, they're still going to be required to meet those canopy thresholds in the subdivisions and be required for the street trees.
Platted lots, that would include vacant lots, right? Unused lots?
Correct.
So if those lots were developed, there will be some tree canopy requirements under other ordinances, yes?
Not necessarily, if it's just an individually platted lot.
So this is a single lot, but a development with multiple lots will still have a canopy tree.
Correct.
requirement.
For a
Yes.
full subdivision, yes, they would
Yes.
have to meet the subdivision requirements along with the landscaping.
Yes.
Just not a minimum on a single residential lot.
Correct.
Now, question. Item F, right afterwards, says that it becomes the discretion of the planning commission. If we're not seeing site plans and we're not seeing it, how are we seeing it to approve this, or is that going to go to you?
At the moment, it's still coming to you from what I can understand.
Okay.
Thank you.
Vice Chairman Smith. Ms. Clary, so can you just clarify, so on page 36 there where the deleted language, so the state code is making us delete that language, is that?
State code only has A, B, C, and D listed under section 961. It does not have section E.
But section E is not prohibited.
The former town attorney informed me we could not enforce Section E because it was not in line with Virginia code.
I guess I would just ask, what is this, as it relates to the rest of the articles in our zoning, then, does state code write all those, or do we have say over any of them? That's what, that if this specific code is provided by the state and we must comply with that entire code book, or I just don't understand the mechanism of how this is requiring us to do that.
So, I think is it on?
You just maybe pull a little closer. It's on.
So essentially, I guess the best way to put it is that you're not adopting a state code. Sometimes adopting a state code makes it easier because you're in compliance, but the state code kind of provides the quote unquote the ceiling. So, or whatever you can do the state code has to allow it. If you want to exceed what the state code has, then that's where you run into an issue. So I believe the issue here is, from my quick research and looking at it, it appeared to me that most cases it wouldn't be a problem, but there could be a problem because of the minimums, and because of that, that's what creates the issue. So you can never do more than what the state code allows because of our Dillon rule situation.
Well, I'm more confused now. It sounded like you started with you can make it more restrictive, but then it sounded like you ended with you can't do it.
It's going to always be what the intent of the legislation was. So, for example, if you can do 55, you can do 40, you can't do 60. So you can't allow for more than what the state has in place. Mm-hmm. So that's why a lot of times you'll see towns and counties following exactly what the state code has set forth, because it puts you directly in line with it. You run into an issue if you find yourself, the state, I believe it's mandating that it's, is it 10% or 15%? Not looking at it directly.
10% for the
10%.
platted residential lots.
You run into an issue if you're trying to allow more than what or less, I believe.
But I think what I'm understanding is this line item just doesn't exist in the state code, but we have it. And then that would beg the next question to me would be, does the state provide a model code, and how many other items do we have that are similar that we're not changing? This seems real confusing that we would pick and choose what we adhere to. Does that make sense? I don't know that we're doing that, but it kind of sounds like it.
Legally, I think in most.
As we discover things that are in conflict with state code, we are certainly bringing them to the Planning Commission. However, with, 508 pages, we certainly can't bring them all at once. But as state code changes and as we encounter something that has changed from when the zoning ordinance was adopted in 1998, we are certainly trying to fix it.
Yeah, no, I totally get you and commend that. I just think there's a distinction between state code says you must do this, and then state code is absent of something. And I just want to share the note that I had on this. I was fortunate this weekend to attend the Virginia Master Naturalist Conference in Richmond, and actually just happened to sit in on a landscaping architecture course. And it was fascinating. And I immediately thought of the Greenwood Homes project and wished that, I had this awareness and maybe delved into that a little bit more with those folks, and maybe there'll be an opportunity for that. But one thing that was discussed was the importance of tree cover and tree canopy, and we specifically discussed comparisons. I was asking questions after the course, just thinking about discussions that I had with the developer as far as saying, go look at some of the other neighborhoods in Smithfield and look at the beautiful trees and how our neighborhoods are in Smithfield and laid out. And that one of the reasons why I thought it was a beautiful product, don't get me wrong, but there are no trees out there, and there are some trees in the plan, but I digress. I agree, I think, with Dr. Pope and hopefully everybody that the tree canopy is important, and I would say if we're not violating state code, or if we can write write it better if we want to require tree canopy. If the way we've written it is what makes it a problem, then maybe we could write it better to ensure that we do get tree canopy. I mean, think of how open the promontory is, right? And if they just say, well, you don't have any tree requirements, so we're not going to put no trees out here. You know what I'm saying?
I agree. I agree with what you said. Because when I understood the tree canopy issue, I think we discussed that with a couple of, previous applications. And the purpose behind it was that the more trees you had, the cooler the overall temperature of the community was. You would lower it. So it's an environmental issue or enhancement, depending upon how you look at it. But I think where we're stuck at is state legislation, recent state legislation, is pretty much downsizing what the Planning Commission can do. And I think that does result in a lot of the language being taken out of our ordinances. I think that's where we're at. We're looking at so many of the items in our ordinance being scratched out due to this. This is just one. There are hundreds of them as you go through the ordinances as a result of this recent legislation. I think that's where we're at. But I do agree, and we should, tree canopy is something I think that.
So your tree canopy requirement hadn't gone away. It's still 15% residential. What the change here is that you're not required, or you're not requiring your developer to put something on every residential lot. So even going to the promontory, he would have to put his 15% coverage in there. It's just, does he have to put something on every residential lot in order to meet this requirement? And that's really what it's coming down to is, does he have to? Do we want it? Do we need it? State is telling us, and again, I'll go back to what the state is. If you watched the news a couple days ago, the governor was out there talking about trying to remove a lot more of these restrictions on getting housing because Virginia is so short on housing. We need affordable housing, and all these local governments are putting all these restrictions on developers to make it more expensive and killing his whole goal to make affordable housing. This is another one of those things where you're forcing the developer to go put quote-unquote expensive trees on his lot and raising the price of every one of the houses. So again, it's a more restrictive requirement. It's not in accordance with code. We remove it so that, you're right. I like it from the perspective of, we like tree canopy. I'd love to have trees on every lot, but can we make it a requirement if it's more restrictive than what the state law is allowing? And I think that's why this is going away.
And you can't make it more restrictive. You can't.
And
We
I think
can't.
If you just wanted to look at it from a fine line rule, if you can't find it in your charter or the Virginia code where it's authorized, it's not allowed. And I think where you said it perfectly, the state code doesn't say anything, it's silent. So that basically means no.
If I can just read section J. In no event shall any local tree replacement or planting ordinance adopted pursuant to this section exceed the requirements set forth.
Okay.
Section J, where's that at? Section J?
State
Of
code.
state
Of
Oh,
code.
you're
state
reading
code.
it, you're quoting state code, okay. Would you repeat it?
In no event shall any local tree replacement or planting ordinance adopted pursuant to this section exceed the requirements set forth. And again, they do not include that section E, which is for individually platted lots.
Yeah. Again, we're handicapped or kneecapped by state legislation. That's simply what it is.
Vice Chairwoman Smith?
Yes.
Well, that's unfortunate. I wish we'd have led with that. And I think that's kind of what I was getting to is like, are our hands tied or no? I mean, if we just have to have a motion to do something. I just want to share one more thing about that and about trees in general. I also learned that a lot of localities, particularly historic district localities, have entire tree plans for how they manage their trees, and it provides a feeding and tree plan and care plan for, decades. So I know we lost some trees downtown. There was, or on the edge of the historic district there near the potentially future Grange property that were, I think, sorely missed. But that was just it was a really interesting thing to me. You know, I had never heard of such a thing. Charlottesville, you know, would be an example, as well as I think Williamsburg. So just a thought.
Did you have anything else?
With
Well,
that, I
you
was
did.
going to make a motion that we recommend approving Article 9 modifications as presented to Town Council.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Motion is made and seconded. Ms. Clary, would you call for the vote, please?
Mr. Bryan?
We have no choice. Yes.
Dr. Bevan?
Yes.
Dr. Pope?
Yes.
Mr. Cutler?
Yes.
Mr. Yoko?
Yes.
And Vice Chair Smith?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Item 8 is closed. Item 9 is a public hearing for a text amendment for multifamily residential Smithfield zoning ordinance, Article 3F. Ms. Clary.
Yes, thank you. This is a proposed text amendment to Article 3F. This would be removing the requirement for continuous open space in Section G5, removing the requirement to provide recreational vehicle parking in Section I2B, and instead making it an SUP requirement in Section C24, and then also allowing public and private travelways in Section I3. Staff do suggest a favorable recommendation to Town Council. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Has anyone, I'll open the public hearing. Has anyone signed up? No. There being none, no one, but would anyone like to speak on this? No. Public hearing is closed. I'll now open it for the Planning Commission. Comments and discussion.
So as far as the RV parking is concerned, multifamily residential will still allow it, you just don't have to designate it. Is that correct?
In order to provide recreational vehicle parking, you would need to get an SUP. Right now, the way that it's working is everyone's getting an SUP to not provide recreational parking.
So is this a recreational parking lot that's separate? Or because if it's multifamily residential, I'm thinking that they're going to be parking in the same parking lot I'm parking my car in. Are you not allowing boats and RVs to be parked in the parking lot, or you have to have a separate parking lot?
This would be a parking lot for recreational vehicles and boats.
I think it should still be required. Just make them exempt that they don't want to do it. I don't know. Just saying you don't have to put one in is different. I mean, Cypress Creek is looking at adding another lot somewhere else. They're at least thinking about it because they've got so much use of it. And so, you know, people like their toys and what they put in there. So I think not having a spot in there is, I think eliminating and not allowing the developer, or allowing the developer to skirt around it is not the right answer. I think they should be held accountable to say, hey, you need to think about this. You can't just eliminate it, put another house there. I don't know. I like the fact that they have to have a special use permit to eliminate it, meaning it's required for them to have it. I was taking this as who's parking in the parking lot. I don't know. I feel like we should keep an SUP for, I think they should be made to put in a residential RV or whatever you want to call it, parking lot for their development.
So the way the current ordinance reads is it's parking spaces that are allocated and reserved for recreational vehicle parking. So this would not be a designated lot for recreational vehicle parking. This could be just parking within the development in and of itself is what we require.
It's just a regular parking lot, and we're going to put a sign up that says boat parking.
Chairwoman Smith, can I ask a question?
Please do. Yes.
First, let me just ask the obvious question. Do we have a choice in this, or is this optional?
Yes, this is optional.
Can I then ask, why is this optional but the other one wasn't? Is this, I mean, just, I don't make light of it, but are we after a model code here, or are we
This is part of staff's ongoing project of just clarifying. The MFR and the AR zoning districts are not clear when it comes to public and private travelways, which is why we are providing the option to have both. If you do have a public travelway, that is going to negate the contiguous open space because you're going to have roads separating the properties, which means once we updated the public and private, we then had to remove the contiguous open space. While we were going through this,
So, I don't mean to interrupt you, but maybe then would help, it might help me if we just, because I think you just jumped from one to another, and then Dr. Pope talked about the RVs. Can we just, might help if we just start from the top and understand the effects of each one, because it seems like it's a bit to digest, kind of 4 changes, right? 3 changes. Travelways, RVs, and contiguous open space, and it's really hard to understand unintended consequences in the document with multiple things changing. So, thank you.
If I may, just to clarify, in our current ordinances, when it comes to particular developments, the RV parking was required. That's correct. So now, with this revision, it seems to be just an option for the developer to decide. Is that a correct assessment of what we're looking at here?
what staff was proposing, that if they wanted to provide a storage lot for recreational vehicles or boats, they would need to acquire an SUP.
Which most, if not all, wouldn't do, because there have been in many applications before us previously where that's just what they did. They looked for a waiver, not to provide one. So I don't.
All right, so let's go back to why do we want them to have boat and RV parking in the middle of our townhouses sitting over on Battery Park Road, right? That's the question. So they'll have to, if they want to have it, they're going to have to ask for it now. Otherwise, they're not going to be available. So it's the question of, do you want them to ask for the waiver to not provide them, which is what they're all basically have been doing, is coming in and saying, hey, we don't want to provide RV parking in it, because I think from their perspective, they don't like to have RVs and boats in their parking lots either. So
Well, we were talking about two different parking lots. There's one parking lot that's going to be separate, that's going to be RV boat parking only, or are we allowing boats and RV to be in the main car parking lot?
And that's where I was going.
There's two different types of parking lots in my mind. There's a separate one for RV boat only, and then there's a parking lot that anything goes. Motorcycle, boats, RVs, tractor trailer, trucks, whatever. Is that in the main parking lot we're speaking of, or are we talking about a separate facility of RV and boat parking?
And on top of that, are you going to allow RV parking in residential driveways?
well, this is multifamily, so,
They don't
correct.
necessarily have driveways. Yeah.
So we're not talking about what's in Cypress Creek or anything like that. We're talking about townhomes,
Well-
apartments.
But multifamily can have a separate lot.
It could, if they provide for it. So that's the question, is are they going to provide for it? And the question here is, which way do you want them to go? Everybody's coming in and asking to not provide it and not have it on their lots. And what we're doing is basically saying, if you want to have it, ask for it. Otherwise, you don't get it.
Well, I'm not in favor of looking at the apartments behind the hair stop across the street from Trey Gwaltney's self-storage. If you take those apartments right there on that road, which I'm blanking on the name of it,
John Roth?
John Roth, are we just gonna ride down the road and see a whole bunch of boats parked in the parking lot? Just backed into the corners, backed into wherever people can get them? I don't want that. I don't think that's attractive, and I don't want that in the parking lot, whether they get a special use permit or not.
That is what we currently have.
You can get a special use permit to park
No,
it where there is
sir,
nothing.
we are requiring them to provide parking spaces at 1 per 6. And so that is what we are encouraging.
So by saying you have to have one per six, they'll allow it. They just can do it without special use permit.
Correct. They would need to get a special use permit in order to not provide those parking
Parking
spaces.
spots.
So then I would say if that is your main parking lot for your facility, then they would require a special use permit in order to park some type of recreational vehicle. Now, if you have a separate parking lot that is a special use permit item for a separate parking lot off to the side and corner of your facility, then that's different.
And I think that's what we get by requiring the special use permit,
Right.
is you come in and they are going to say, we are going to provide RV parking, and we would say, how are you going to do that? Is it gonna be one at every sixth apartment, or are you gonna create a separate space for doing it? And they say, oh, we're gonna create a separate space for doing that, and we say, good, we like that. If they're gonna do one for every sixth apartment, or the person who's gonna rent it who has a boat, I don't think we want that,
But
so.
our current development plan says if you're gonna do a development, you have to put an RV parking lot in unless you deny it. Is that not correct?
It does not say a required parking lot. It provided parking. So that is where it
Well-
would be not its own individual lot. It would be in the generic parking.
Right. I recall with the cottages, they first came with one RV parking space per four, but that took up too much space for the residents' cars. So they wanted an SUP to not have that, provide that.
Right. So Mallory Point had a parking and loading waiver of no RV parking provided. They had to have that for Mallory Point, which is a mixture of single-family home and multifamily residential, or attached residential. So that's a separate parking lot. So it is part of that. I understand what we're asking, but there's two different ways to park this. And I don't know, my mind says separate them and talk about them individually. If you can do a separate lot, that's one special use permit. If you want to put it in your own main parking lot, that's a separate special use permit. But Mallory Point has a special parking and loading waiver for no RV parking. What's that, is that?
Correct. They were not providing any RV parking spaces for their development.
On the main lot in attached residential, or a separate lot for the single-family homes?
Correct. We do not require a separate lot at the moment.
Thought we did.
We only require parking spaces.
Parking spaces, it can be done via a separate lot,
Correct.
but we require the spaces, which is probably the other reason why they ask for the exemption, is so they can use the space for something other than RV parking. But
Well, sure.
Is there further?
Vice Chairwoman
Discussion.
Smith, I have a question.
Yes.
So in the most recent three developments, Mallory Cottages and Promontory, did this line come into play in all three of those?
It did not. Mallory was the attached residential zoning section, which is the item next. The promontory is a PMUD, so it was not applicable. The cottages did fall under the MFR, which followed the AR guidelines.
So then the two non-PMUD, this, or in the next, when we're going to visit in the next section, the next item, that came into play. So in both times, SUP was submitted and was approved, and we didn't require this?
That is correct.
Well, anytime there's a residential component, it needs to be addressed. I don't care which zoning ordinance under, whether it's under single-family homes or whether it's under PMUD or attached residential, multifamily residential, whatever, it needs to be addressed in every ordinance.
Well, it sounds like it's been a boon to your neighborhood, but then we haven't required it. So I mean, it sounds like it's great, but then we haven't required it, so I'm not sure.
Well, so here's the dilemma in this. So you got the battery. All right, I move in there, I want a boat. Where am I gonna park it? I gotta go rent a self-storage place somewhere to do it. Maybe that attracts me to their to their their subdivision or not. I get that, but I understand they're saying we don't want it in there at all, but I just need to make sure there's provisions in which they aren't allowed to do it at all, and as long as the residents know when they buy in there, they're not allowed to do it at all. Which then comes back to what we discussed about boats and RV parking and the sideline setbacks and all of that, which I don't think we've ruled on that, have we? Is that an item we
We said we were okay
we
with it the
tabled?
way it was.
Yeah, we left it so they can't park in it. So those are all issues that come up. So I guess if they have no RV parking spaces allowed and you're in the Battery, you can't even park your boat in the backyard. Is that
Right.
correct?
So what you got in Cypress Creek is you've got a homeowners association rule that says you can't park it in your driveway or whatever, and they provided the lot because it's in your homeowners association rules, but it's not because of quote-unquote ordinance that you can't park it, because if it was just the ordinance, you could park your boat in your driveway.
But in residential areas, you're not allowed to park in the front,
In the
in the front of your
You can't
home.
park it in the front, you can't park it within the
Yes.
side setback, you
Right.
can't.
Yes.
But you can
And-
put it in your backyard, you can put it on your driveway as long as your driveway's off the,
Uh-huh. But I want to understand, I want to make sure I understood what Director Clary said about the apartments on John Rolfe. Did I understand that there are spaces in there for RVs or boats?
I don't know when that project was approved, but if it came to us now, the way that our ordinance is currently written, we would require them to allocate spaces to recreational vehicles.
Okay. No, I just hadn't noticed any there, and I was just curious about that.
Any further discussion?
Well, as you know, for me, I'm always in favor of an SUP because that gives us the control
It
and gives
does.
us the right to be able to look at this individually. So that, now, for contiguous open space, I think we need to be careful with this because I think we need a minimum. Because if you've got curves and things in your neighborhood and you're just gonna say, hey, I can add up all these little spaces that don't make sense to make part of a lot, and then you just got a bunch of 10 by 20 little spaces that don't work and you're gonna add those up to get your percentage, I think that's wrong. I don't care if they break up contiguous space, but I think they need a minimum contiguous space. And I don't know how to write that in, but I don't think we can have 100 10 by 20 lots versus one, multiply that out by that. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Just because lots are curved, they're at angles, they're at triangles, they don't fit, so you're gonna say, well, I just draw the property line here, use this as continuous space, and I can continue to develop. I think they need some, at least attempt at some bigger continuous public space.
Yes, and to follow up, page 52, item 5, paragraph 5, where it says, required open space shall be contiguous and shall occupy a single parcel within. That's being scratched out. And did legislation, the recent legislation, cause this, or is this?
No, when we changed from, because the ordinance bounces back and forth between private and public and right-of-way, and so we had to change the section in I that addresses private streets and allow it just to be travelways, so it could be a private street or a public street. Once we've created this public street, we've now separated the contiguous open space because there is right-of-way and there is a road that will now go through it. It will no longer be privately owned by the developer. So if you think about the cottages, there was essentially one large parcel because the streets are private, and so all the open space is private, and so all of that is owned by the developer, and it's all making up one contiguous parcel with the individual condos. Here, if we have public streets, then we have now separated those pocket parks with right-of-way and with roads. And so they're no longer contiguously on one parcel.
So we're not changing the amount of space, just doesn't have to be contiguous.
Correct.
And this contiguous space is different in the multifamily attached residential as it is in suburban cluster. suburban cluster continuous space, open space, is different because that's a residential, single-family ordinance versus this is multifamily residential and attached, because they're required to provide more open space in their development because they're a cluster development. That is different than attached residential, multifamily residential open space. There's a difference between those two.
There is a difference in the amount of open space and active open space that is required across the attached residential, multifamily residential compared to suburban residential.
So these are not comparisons then. So what we do here does not affect the suburban residential open space because we're in a different ordinance.
That is correct.
Any more discussion or questions? Yes.
Yes, Vice Chairwoman Smith. Yeah, I still don't even quite understand it, and I maybe even just need some time to process, but I don't understand the upside of doing this. That's really, it just seems like it sounds like we're allowing something, as Dr. Pope described, like a bunch of disconnected puzzle pieces to count as open space, and which just seems like doesn't really seem like a great idea. But I'd be curious, I mean, this line, required open space contiguous, so back to my question on the last one, you know, has this come into play for us before where this has been a consideration that we've had to make an exception to or something like that?
This is a clarification for our zoning ordinance. If you go to Section 2, the minimum yard requirements, it addresses public right-of-way and private travelway, which means our zoning ordinance allows for both. Section I only addresses private travelways. Well, once we then amended Section I to include public and private, which is in line with what is in the section above, that is what then triggered the contiguous open space issue, at which point the open space parcels would no longer be contiguous if there was a public road going through them.
So this is just developable area. This is not really parks and recreation within the development.
This is part of their overall open space and part of their development. Again, this was just staff clarifying. We allow public and private roads to address for our setbacks, and so we wanted to make sure that that was consistent throughout the zoning district.
Section I.
So in Section G, number 2, 50% of the required common open space area shall be developed as active recreational areas and facilities. By eliminating this, that 50% can be split up as many ways as it wants to be split up.
That is correct.
But it doesn't do us any good to have a kickball area that's 10 feet by 10 feet when it should have been 50 feet by 100 feet. I just see the developers using nooks and crannies to satisfy their open space requirements without really providing what our intention of these is to have a large continuous open space for the people to use for public, for their own enjoyment, their own exercise, recreation, whatever you want to call it. But I just see developers nitpicking this all the way down to the minimum requirements.
So if you look at the promontory, they were able to offer pocket parks of open space throughout their development instead of just one centralized area of open space.
I get that, and that makes it very nice. And they were very generous in their offerings for that for the development. But I'm not so sure all developers are going to be generous and they're just trying to meet minimum requirements. You know, they were nice because they wanted kayak launches, they wanted butterfly parks, they wanted all the different things that they said. But they were generous, but I'm not looking at this that all developers are going to be generous like that. I get that. I don't have any problem splitting it up. I just don't want them to split it up because my land is irregular and this is going to be a good spot to just capture 10% and capture 5%, capture 3% when they should be trying to provide an open space, a more of a park feel that the community would want.
But this is common open space, not your lot, right? As I read that? So they can't count 100 square feet on your lot and 100 square feet in the lot next door.
No, they wouldn't. It's all open space.
It's
But
common space. So I hear what you're saying. I'm trying to think of how you could, how you could, I mean, I guess if you develop it around a curve and there's 12 pieces of the pie and you don't fill a couple of the pieces, then you call it common open space and it might be very small.
right.
But I wouldn't think, well, I think that doesn't make financially a lot of sense for them either, so, but, because you're gonna have all the utilities in there, and the sewer lines or water lines.
I get that, but I think the whole point of a recreational area is part of the, okay, so you're giving into density in order to get more open space. That's the whole give, right? Between suburban residential cluster, suburban residential conventional, you say, all right, I'm gonna allow more density, but in trade for that, I want more open space. Same thing with this. You've got more density in attached residential and multifamily residential. So yeah, you can have more density in a smaller spot, but in trade for that, I want a bigger open land for my residents or for our people that are gonna be moving there. Now we're allowing them to basically say, well, we don't care about the open space. You can break it up any way you want to. And I don't think the developers are going to care if they give you a big enough open space or not. They're going to use their land density as much as they possibly can to meet the minimum requirement. Whereas if we say you've got to keep this as 15% of your overall development or whatever, is it 15%? It's currently, is that
30%.
30?
30% is the common open space, and then 50% of that common open space is active recreational areas.
So I just feel like this is a way for developers not to do the right thing for what their residents are going to need long-term.
Vice Chairwoman Smith, may
Yeah.
I? I agree. I think back to the cottages on this, and I just wanted to ask in section I, so 2 Bravo is not it. So in 3 Alpha, 3 Charlie, or is it 3 Echo? Which one of those is forcing that? Deleting private, is that alone forcing us to make that change? Is that what you're saying, or is it the Echo?
So in section E, for lot size, if you go to section F2, we address our setbacks, which address public right-of-way and private travelways, which have 2 separate setbacks, depending on what the developer is proposing, either public roads that would be accepted into our maintenance system, or if they were going to remain private under the developer's maintenance as well. That is in conflict with section I that addresses all, I believe it's all of them have to front public travelways or something like that. That's why we were including public and private, since we addressed it earlier in our lot setbacks as either being a viable option.
So to me, I don't understand why we can't have both. I mean, why can't we provide this opportunity and at the same time, because it sounds like this discussion is very important to everyone, the green space, so I don't understand why we would take it out. If anything, we have what seems to be a good example at the promontory, and then sounds like we got a 1-lot park in the cottages, is that correct?
There is an area up at the front.
Yeah, so but we had non-contiguous green space in the cottages, right? Wasn't that part of the consideration, or was it just part of the discussion?
I think it was part of the discussion, but because, if you remember, it's a condominium-style ownership, it is contiguous.
All contiguous.
Yeah, so it was a little confusing, but what I would suggest, though, is if this green space is important to us, which I think it is highly identified in the comprehensive plan, that we give more clear direction instead of less clear direction. That's what I would suggest. Because I think what we're doing is removing some direction sounds like it puts us at risk for something that we don't desire. But if we have a conflict in our zoning, why wouldn't we then just change it to what we want it to actually say?
Yeah. I was going to say, to Dr. Pope's point, if the required open space is contiguous, then the 30% minimum or whatever would have to be contiguous.
Correct.
They could provide more open space that is not contiguous for those areas that quote unquote don't fit in. But do we want to require a minimum contiguous area? Something less than the 30%, or do we say all 30% has to be contiguous? I mean,
Well, if we make it contiguous, they would have to have an SUP to make it not so.
I'll give you phase 6 of Cypress Creek, the 55-year-old section in the back. There's a few traditional development up in the front for the first few homes. Soon as you transition through the roundabout, you can see that there's approximately a 40-foot wide buffer lot between the conventional house and the start of the 55. So he would say, okay, I don't know what that square footage is. He'll say, okay, that's 10%. So I can try 20% somewhere else. Well, that lot's unusable. Nobody's going to go play soccer over there between two houses, and residents are going to think it's just not conducive to using the space, versus if you go behind where the fitness center is and there's probably 20-acre open lot with a trail through it, that is appropriate for the residents to use. So all these, so my fear is they're going to have those transition zones like in phase 6, that they're just going to have a whole bunch of little spots that just aren't usable and say they add up to 30%, there you go. And that's not the point, I don't think. I don't think that's the point of the ordinance. And those are the examples that are existing right there. Now, I don't know if they're counting them to open space and all of that, because I think they met their open space requirement, so they're provided more, but it's just a dead open space. So I just don't want to see a bunch of dead open spaces that are not usable. Because the point of this is to make it usable for the people that are living in that type of facility to have some place to go out and do something if they're living in attached residential versus you own your own yard.
Vice Chairwoman Smith?
Yes.
Yeah, again, I think we should craft something that meets the intent of our comprehensive plan. You know, maybe we should look to that, to how to draft this in our zoning ordinance, because I agree with you. Whatever we need to do, I don't think there's going to be much, well, I don't know. But I wouldn't support risking our opportunity to preserve open space in our future decision making. I wouldn't want to risk that.
Can we just change the ordinance? It doesn't matter if it's public or private? And just say it doesn't matter if it's public or private, because you're saying if it's public, it separates it, but can't you just say who cares if it's public or private?
We can try to draft something, if I understand you correctly, where even though they're separate, they still would be treated. I was going back to what you had said earlier about potential minimums. You know, the comprehensive plan does address pocket parks and encourages those, so we are kind of encouraging the separation of these green space areas. I don't know of any locality offhand that does minimum open space requirements on a certain square footage or acreage that I'm aware of, but we can certainly look to see if we can find something like that.
All right.
I just don't want to leave it open to the developers to say, I meet your requirement and I've got a whole bunch of little parcels. That's just what I want to avoid.
But we do require open space for the development.
yeah,
We
I mean,
require-
like I said,
Yes.
it's still 30% minimum, and so 15% of it has to be to recreational areas.
Instead of putting a number or square footage or acreage, could we include language that says small and usable open space areas that are not in line with the intent of this ordinance will not be accepted, or some kind of verbiage? I'm kind of looking over your area.
May I suggest something? Just a thought. If you're going to have these open spaces split up, perhaps just suggesting, having a minimum percentage of a space?
Well,
You know,
the
if you have,
percentage-
let's say you have 30% on one side or whatever split up, and the other 70% on the other.
Now, the percentage of open space is also going to vary on the size of the
Right.
development, where you could still end up with a small unusable section.
Yes, but what Mr. Yoko was saying, 30% of the total developed area, the development, and 50% of that is open space. And that 50%, you split that 50%, 30%, 70%, 40%, 60%, 50%, 50%.
The only issue I see with that right now off the top of my head would be now you've eliminated somebody that wanted to use 100% to create this, you know, dog park, frisbee, golf area.
100%?
Correct. If you made if we switched
Well, they
to
can
like
put the one,
a
no,
minimum.
the 100% could be on either side if they can manage it. It's not required that you split up the contiguous
Okay.
space. It's just that you trying to maintain a reasonable amount.
Our goal is to maximize the space, not
Yes.
minimize.
Well, couldn't you-
The open
Yes.
space, we would like to maximize the open space, although we might entertain splitting the space on certain conditions.
Yes, 20%.
Vice Chairwoman Smith?
Yes.
Yeah, I would even go as far as to say, why wouldn't we maximize it? I mean, frankly, with the system that is in operation right now, you know, we basically have a guideline, and then we kind of negotiate through an SUP. So if we had a, you know, something that is what we think it is that we want, and then we wrote it, and then there is always that avenue to ask for whatever they want, and we have to entertain it. So seems like we should, again, write what we want it to be, because it might be 5 or 10 years or 20 years before it gets revisited again, and then it's some ambiguous thing that we don't even understand, frankly, and it's hard to understand how it protects our citizens of the future that we approve for building. So I would say something with more clarity would be appropriate.
I agree with that, and the verbiage of maximizing our open space, I think is important.
Good, because I'll pick on Phase 6. They do have a large area behind the fitness house, but I believe, Mark and Tammy can correct me, so if you go to the back of the 55 into Old Development, it backs up to the lake, which is split by Route 10, right, that goes across there. They allowed for a percentage of acreage back there to go for their cluster development. It's unusable space behind the house it's behind the row of houses that back up to that lake. And also they have the RPA of the lake, but there's a certain percentage of land back behind that goes towards their percent of open space that is unusable. So that's, again, they did that in order to get their required 30%, even though they have a large area up front. So it's like, all right, you got a large area, I don't care about that. But I just don't want all those pocket pieces to be in unusable spaces.
But it already says that no more than 40% of those common areas can be that type of land.
I just want to make sure we're protecting it in the future, that's all.
So are we in agreement that we'd like to ask staff to reword this and bring it back to us?
Yes, and then, but going to public and private travelways, can you just call them travelways and who cares if they're public or private?
That is what we're proposing.
I was
For
gonna say,
that
that's what we're
section,
doing,
yeah.
but that's what's caused the problem, is the fact that when it goes private, you split it. That's what I was wondering, is during the development, while the owner still owns it, if you approve the plat and everything at that point with the requirements, it is contiguous. Once they turn it over to you, then it's broken, but the developer has done and met the requirements during the development phase. I don't know, how does that help us? You met the requirement during the development, but once you turn it
Because
over to
still
private, you
it's
split it, and,
intended as always being a public, and so
which it still would.
they would be dedicating right-of-way to us.
Yeah.
I'm just proposing two options. We can either leave it as it is, where it's unless otherwise approved by the Planning Commission, or I can attempt to try to find some sort of other language that we could include. Leaving it, it would still come before the Planning Commission if they were going to divide that open space. Or again, we can work on thresholds or minimums if that's what the Planning Commission would like to see.
Vice Chairman Smith, if I may, I thank you, Ms. Clary, for kind of narrowing it down there. I mean, again, I just want to reiterate, we're confused talking about it. It's confusing. I think it would be worth rewording and making it more clear to meet our intentions, or our intentions as a comprehensive plan, or our intentions as a planning commission. Just because it's confusing without even changing it, it's confusing, and then changing one word is making it even more confusing, and now we have a unworkable and ununderstandable ordinance that requires, assistance to grapple with.
We have 2 plots of land in town that might actually fit into this requirement. I say we leave it to come to the planning commission, and if anybody decides to put multifamily on those 2 lots when they finally come to us, we'll figure it out then.
So do we have a motion as to what you'd like to see occur? But let me ask you first, Ms. Clary, if it goes back for you all to find new language for this specific area, would you want us to vote whether to approve the other 2, the recreational vehicles and the, what was it? Were there 3 things?
Including public and private travel ways.
Right.
That would be up to the Planning Commission. Again, we could leave item 5 there where the open space still comes to Planning Commission, and you could favorably recommend the other changes to Town Council, but that's completely up to the Planning Commission.
All right.
Yeah, I like the open space coming back to the planning commission because, it's hard, I think it's very hard to come up with definitions. I was thinking, well, if we say it's got to be 30% and then 15% of the 30% has to be contiguous, then if they use the strip behind the houses up against the lake, so I think so many things are being taken away from Planning Commission that I'm not ready to give up another one. I think let us see it and we'll say, yeah, that makes sense in your plat, in your, whatever, your drawings. But, or if they give us a bunch of postage stamps, say that's not real, no, the answer to that is no.
Well,
I agree with that.
So I guess I'm not sure how to make the motion. I would make a motion that we leave the required open space, that we don't delete that, but we go ahead and make the RV changes.
I just want to make sure that Planning Commission is on board with the RV that would require a special use permit for parking lots for recreational vehicles and boats, and we would no longer require separate parking spaces in accordance with the unit count in that development. That they would now have to come and get an SUP in order to have a parking lot for the recreational vehicles and boats.
or any parking.
We would not require them to have the RV parking. So if they wanted to provide parking lots for RV storage and boats,
Right.
then they would need an SUP.
Okay, all right.
So moved.
So if I may, your motion would be the staff red line changes except for G5, which addresses the contiguous open space.
I'm not certain we finished with this section. I mean, there's, what is this, E, in section 3. No attached dwelling unit may be accessed directly from a public street unless approved by a special permit. Did we address that? I didn't hear it.
That was part of allowing public and private travel ways.
We're not defining public or private necessarily.
Right, not specifying between them. Or treating them the same.
So it's not necessary. Exactly. I suppose that's what you're saying. That's simply just not necessary, so it's being deleted. And then VDOT would have regulations to prevent such a thing on its own, wouldn't it?
VDOT would, if it wasn't going to be a VDOT road, then their comments would be limited, because it wouldn't be something that they would be truly involved in. For example, like the back part of Mallory, that's not attached to the Battery Park roundabout area.
So our public streets wouldn't fall under VDOT.
They do not.
Okay. Understood.
Vice Chairwoman Smith?
Yes.
Can I just say about, so, you know, in the beginning of the staff report, proposed text amendment, Article 3F, so G5 is the confusing one. I-2 Bravo, and Charlie 24 is the RV and the trailways. So unless the motion is really clear, I'm not sure why we would confuse this up, because the red line nature of the document, in my opinion, kind of, unless we're going to be really clear about what line we're approving, I guess it would be the deletion in I-2 Bravo, and then something in Charlie 24, right? That's what we're in agreement on, am I correct?
I believe everything except for G5.
Yes.
Well, except that I-3 is what created G5, right? Isn't that the whole crux of it?
That is correct, meaning that if they weren't providing contiguous, it would have to come back to Planning Commission in order for them to approve it.
Right. So, you know, I think you know what you're doing with this, correct, Ms. Clary? From here, you're ready to. Am I wrong?
I'm not sure what question you're asking.
Well, I just don't know why we'd make a motion to approve part of it when it's all intertwined.
I think basically G5 would stay,
G5 stays,
and then we
then
eliminate the other.
right, G5
Oh,
stays.
okay, so we're ready to make that decision. I thought we were adding or changing something, so nothing's going to change. We're just going to leave G5 and
Correct.
make the rest of the change.
And make the rest of the
Okay,
change,
okay, thank you.
which would force it to come back to us.
Yes, it would.
All right,
So
We do have a motion on the floor to recommend approval to town council as submitted, or
As
this is for us?
redlined, without the inclusion of
G5.
G5, that
Yes.
will remain.
Yes. Is
second.
there a second? Thank you. Ms. Clary, call for the question, please.
Dr. Bevan?
Yes.
Mr. Bryan?
Yes.
Mr. Cutler?
Yes.
Dr. Pope?
yes,
Mr. Yoko?
Yes.
And Vice Chair Smith?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. We're closing item 9 on the agenda and opening a public hearing for text amendment for attached residential Smithfield zoning ordinance article 3E. 3E. And Ms. Clary, could you provide a staff report, please?
Yes, very similar to the text amendment application that was just before you. This is to Article 3E, which would remove the requirement for contiguous open space in Section G5, remove the requirement to provide recreational vehicle parking in Section I2B, and instead making it an SUP requirement in Section C2, and then also allowing public and private travelways in Section I3. We do suggest a favorable recommendation to Town Council with the redlined items minus the contiguous open space in Section G5, which would return to Planning Commission. Thank you.
This is a public hearing. I will open the public hearing. There's no one signed up to speak. Would anybody like to do so? Hearing none, the public hearing is closed. Now open it up for Planning Commission.
well, I'd like to make a motion that we make a favorable recommendation to town council to approve the red line items minus 5G.
Second.
G5, sorry.
G5, yeah, second.
And how is this different than what we just did?
It's a different ordinance.
Different.
The first one was multifamily residential. This is attached residential.
Okay, thank you.
All right, a motion has been made and seconded. Ms. Clary?
Mr. Yoko?
Yes.
Dr. Pope?
Yes.
Mr. Cutler?
Yes.
Mr. Bryan?
Yes.
Dr. Bevan?
Yes.
And Vice Chair Smith?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, item 11 is a text amendment for site plan requirements, zoning ordinance, Article 11. Ms. Clary?
Yes, thank you. This item did appear previously as a public hearing. It is a proposed text amendment to Article 11, bringing our site plan requirements in line with Virginia Code, which recently replaced the Planning Commission with a designated agent as the reviewer of site plans. It also does not allow for a preliminary site plan conference, so that section was also removed. Staff did clear up the language for minor and major site plans and included the requirement of a preliminary plat if more than 50 lots in line with Virginia Code. We did update the sewer systems with the new language that we used from our adopted CBPA ordinance, updated review timelines to follow Virginia Code, and finally the appeals process was clarified to the BZA, not Planning Commission. We do suggest a favorable recommendation to Town Council. Since this appeared on the last Planning Commission agenda, I did attempt to highlight the staff's changes that were not required due to code, just simply clarifying our process. Thank you.
All right, thank you. This is not a public hearing, it's a text amendment, so I'm opening it for discussion, please. Anybody have anything?
Article 5A2, wherever that is. Says you gotta go do these following 5 steps, but we eliminated one, so it's now 4 steps.
What page of the PDF?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. In the design standards, so it's way down there.
Okay. Design standards, that is on the next one
it
for
on
our
the next one?
subdivision ordinance.
Oh, I thought I had it on this one. Okay, then we're good.
Yes. All right. Would we like to take a short 5-minute break?
Yes.
Taking a break. Thank
Just
you.
for clarification, what page are we on? 75? Is that where we're starting with this?
I think so.
73 on the,
74.
okay, yeah,
Yes,
it starts right
75.
there, site plan requirements.
recess is over, and we are resuming our meeting. So, we are discussing the text amendment for the site plan requirements for zoning ordinance 11. Zoning ordinance 11.
And at this point, this one's just a discussion item, right? We're not public hearing and we're not recommending this one?
We had our
At this
public
point.
hearing last month,
Right.
so it would be a
So
recommendation to
now
town
we're
council.
just back to recommendation,
Yeah.
okay.
Vice Chairwoman Smith, I have a question,
Yes,
please.
please.
Mr. Eldridge, I know this item was talked about a lot at the most recent legislative session. Have you seen, or with your firm, can you reference how other localities have managed dealing with this? Has anyone done it in a creative manner, or pretty much everyone has put the planning and zoning administrator in this position, or have there been other things done?
Yes, most people have just updated it to have a designated agent, and yes, you're correct. It's usually going to be someone from the zoning department, whether that be the zoning administrator or his or her designee, but someone with that experience background.
So you said most, but is that not all, or have other places done something creative, or? I've heard about some creative things, that's why I'm asking.
The ones that we have advised have been on pretty, I can't tell you any that I know of or any that we represent that have done anything differently, and we haven't advised to do anything differently.
Thank you.
So this is the document where planning commission's been removed and zoning administrator has been replacing that.
Well, no, yes and no, because this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart here because of the minor site plan requirements. Once we define what those requirements are, the zoning administrator then can approve without approval, as long as they're in full compliance with no special use permits and no rezoning. But my issue when it says when use is requiring a minor site plan is you're talking about a lot of residential uses, but there's nothing in here about minor site plans related to commercial. But use my office as an example. When we were trying to do ours, when would commercial development be allowed a minor site plan versus doing a major site plan? And so you have a lot in here, but I don't see anything in here that allows commercial development. So let me back up one step and say that one of the things I've argued over the last couple of years is when a business remodels, at what point do we need to make them fully compliant with all ordinances, ECO guidelines, and everything else? At what value do you place that, or what level of construction do you say that now that person has to become fully compliant? But that comes back to say, okay, if you're going to make somebody be fully compliant, then in my mind that would trigger a major site plan. Anything else other than a major site plan should be allowed to do a minor site plan. That would be the way I would look at this as a business owner trying to do this. As a business owner, when this is talking more about residential type of stuff, because again, major site plans were very costly for me, because you've heard my numbers from last month of we had estimates from $35,000 to $55,000 for a major site plan to just do 960 square feet. So I think there needs to be more liberalization of the minor site plan ordinances for existing businesses that exist in the town. If it's a raw lot, new lot, that's easy. It's a major site plan, period. But you look at Mr. Walls, when are you going to say you're adding a deck? When are we going to say you need to be fully compliant? If I go and buy one of the houses on Church Street in front of the Supreme gas station and say, all right, I want to turn that into a doctor's office, and by the way, I want to put 1,500 square feet on the back of the house so I get more exam room space. Well, if I double the size of the building, that might be obvious that I need a major site plan. But right now in our ordinance, we do not have any type of trigger of renovation that says, when do we make people become fully compliant as if you were a raw new lot? And that bothers me that there is not a trigger point in there.
So if you remember, we included the paving, at which point they'd have to be compliant on that rolling 5-year basis if they increase the value, I believe it was 50%. The only thing I will say to that is by making them become fully compliant, there are instances where they will have to tear down their entire structure and rebuild from the scratch in order to be compliant.
I get that, but we need to find a compromise in there. But you're going to take an older structure and piecemeal it together. That's not necessarily fair to other business owners and everything else either, but there needs to be a trigger of which you're going to say, hey, this needs to be reviewed, not just do it. I don't know. I don't know. And so I don't know the exact square footage of our building, but my rough guess is it's about 5,500 square feet. And I wanted to ideally put on a 1,200 square foot addition before I knew anything about what I needed to comply with. I didn't think that was over and excessive over the 5,500, but then these minor site plans kick in where I couldn't be over 1,000 square feet, so I had to reduce it in order to get into the minor site plan criteria. But there needs to be a way that we work with businesses that exist that wish to expand their facilities to say, how can we do this efficiently, and when do we trigger you to become fully compliant? I mean, I understand what you're asking me, saying, yeah, you got to tear it down to do that, but there comes a point of the tap house. You got to make them hook up to water if they're not, or you got to hook up to sewer if you're on a septic, if that exists. When do you pave your parking lot? When do your colors become important? You want to, we don't necessarily allow vinyl siding to be used necessarily, but when do we say you can't put vinyl siding up, you need to put brick, hardy. When do we say you've got to comply just the same way as we do with everything else with building and design? That's my issue on the minor site plan, is we need a way that keeps it cost effective, that's not overly burdensome.
We did include on section E for the waiver of a site plan, at which point, at the discretion of the zoning administrator, provided that the requested change of use is in conformance with the intent of this article. So that does allow discretion in the instance, as we talked about before, where we can waive that major or minor site plan requirement.
And that's on page 83 for anyone who's looking for
I
it.
see that, but if I pick this document up and I read it as it's presented tonight, I would think because I'm a commercial structure, I wouldn't even qualify for a minor site plan. I wouldn't know that I would have an exception to the rule. It should say something in here, commercial structures may be able to apply for a minor site plan if. I mean, you've got all these residential stuff, but this doesn't have anything in here commercial unless I'm just misreading it. I don't see anything in here that tells me if I were to review this before I ever spoke to Tammy or Mark, when would a business be able to change this? I would look at this and say, well, I never qualify for a minor site plan, I've got to go for a major.
Well, number 4 kind of gives you the catch-all of, at the direction of the zoning administrator, provided that requested change or use is in conformance with the intent of the article. But yeah, I see what you're saying. It needs to be better language, I guess.
But I would never think I would get in front of the zoning coordinator if I'm reading this as a commercial.
Yeah,
How would I know to ask for that? I didn't know to ask for it, and I've sat on the commission for almost 12 years. And here I'm doing an addition as of a year ago, and I didn't know to ask for it until I was reviewing this one night in a meeting. And then I went back to Tammy and Mark and said, how can I get into the minor site plan criteria? And they helped me do it, but I didn't have any idea. My architect didn't have any idea.
Sure.
Canada Land Surveying didn't help me say you could do this. Not that that's really their job, but they might offer me some advice. But there was no way until I read this, and I'm in the middle of it. nobody coming in from the outside would know how to do this.
Is it the change that really gets him out of it to begin with now, that D1, where it used to be all uses in any commercial zoning districts, and it's now all uses requiring new structures?
That was our attempt at kind of highlighting that if you're a brand-new commercial structure coming in, then yes, a site plan would be required.
Well, I get that if you're brand new,
Right.
raw lot.
But before, it was all uses in any commercial district. So if you were commercial property, you were doing a full site plan.
Say that again, I'm not following you.
Well, D1 used to be all uses in any of the commercial zoning districts required a major site plan.
But I still think there needs to be some verbiage under minor that says, hey, you might be able to do this. But if somebody read this from the outside and said, Land Planning Solutions out of Suffolk read the ordinance and said, could they qualify for a minor site plan? I think they would give me the advice of, there's no commercial mention, so therefore you can't do it if there's no mention under the minor site plan requirement. Do you see what I'm saying? If there's nothing, right, if it's omitted, then it's not allowed.
Somebody
Right.
said that earlier today.
Yes, but so it needs to say remodeling of commercial structures may qualify for a minor site plan. Ask your zoning administrator. That might be a better line to put in there, so at least businesses understand I might be able to get around a major site plan. I don't know. I can just tell you, $35,000, $55,000 to have a engineered drawing
Sure.
is ridiculous, in addition to all the other fees I had to pay to get to that point. I would have spent roughly $65,000 to $85,000 to get approval for a 960 square foot addition if I had to do all of the steps. Not that we as the town can dictate cost, but that's what somebody's spending to just improve their business to try to comply with these ordinances. And I think that that's excessive for a business, to ask a business to do that.
And the cutoff was 1,000 square feet. I mean,
Well, that's what is currently written, and also 2,500 square feet of disturbance, but I think that's a state issue, is it not? In 2,500, a state issue? Yes, so we can't go, I think it needs to be more disturbance, a little bit for that, because, give you an example, I wanted to add parking, and I was gonna change parallel parking to front end parking and extend it probably an additional 300 square feet. But when you take my 1,000 square feet, you take the silt fence that goes around all of that, I was just over 2,500 square feet, which then triggered me for a major site plan to do parking and my building, when it came out to about 2,700 square feet, which then triggered the major site plan. And that's when I went back to Tammy and Mark and said, what's my options? And that's when I got the special use permit for parking and waiver loading, or loading and parking, whatever it's related, so that I could keep me under 2,500 square feet and get me under 1,000 to keep me in the minor site plan criteria. So that I'm not spending that extra money for something that just didn't seem for me to justify all the expense for 960 square feet. So it's an unintended consequence of the way the ordinance is written as how we have to spend our money to do this. And so far, we have not required Mr. Walls to do anything. We didn't require, I don't think we required a major site plan of Tap House Grill, did we? Red Point Tap House? I don't think they did a major site plan with all the renovations that they did.
I believe at one point, we did have a full
Site
survey.
plan. Okay, survey or site plan? Because I was able to do a survey through Canada without having to go through a Land Planning Solutions or Landmark Solutions or whatever they were called
Their survey was a depiction of their site plan, with the additions that they were proposing.
Okay, but, so, my point is I think we need to be sensitive to our existing businesses that are here for anybody who wishes to expand. And that includes Tractor Supply when they want to do their
greenhouse.
thing and their
Yeah.
greenhouse. And I mean, I get some of that. They've got deeper pockets and they probably just expect to do the site plan and move on. But whether it's McDonald's, whether it's us, whether it's Mr. Walls, whether it's another small business, I don't know. I think we've got to figure out a way to keep this easy and simple for what's required, because a step up to the major site plans and all the engineering and all the stormwater calculations and everything that went into it, the estimate was unbelievable. I mean, the detail of the estimate and the line items that they gave me was like, really? But anyways, that's my beef with this is we need to keep it workable for people that wish to expand their businesses.
Well, I agree. We need to be sensitive to that. And I think that we're fortunate that we have your perspective on this. Otherwise, it would continue to go on.
Vice Chairwoman Smith, I have a couple comments and questions. First, I think your point's very well made. Dr. Pope, thank you for sharing that with us. You're correct, Vice Chairwoman Smith. First, I would say just navigating through this Article 11 was very challenging. And then, you know, as we start to talk about it, we just kind of jump into it. And I would just like to make a suggestion to start. So in the staff report, you know, if we can break these up into different paragraphs or bullets or a list or something, so, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we can move on after our discussion to say we want to approve 1, 2, and 3, but not 4. And we can address them and discuss them for those of us like myself that are far less knowledgeable than Dr. Pope and understand that he jumps into talking and he's already down here on number 2 or 3, and I'm still thinking about number 1. But this one was particularly difficult because there's 4 changes incorporated and they all look the same. So, I mean, I went through it and tried to formulate my questions from it. But I want to start with, to Dr. Pope's point that I think we should focus on as we go back to our comprehensive plan and we look at, you know, the folks that wrote it said South Church Street, we want to do all these improvements and expansion, and, you know, eventually that's going to turn more into a business area. And what Dr. Pope is talking about is exactly a lot of what we expect to happen in that corridor is a lot of those, you know, some of those residences or some of those structures that are commercial now are going to have additions, improvements, yet, you know, so on and so forth. So being that we put that in our comprehensive plan and that's out for the world to see, much like it attracted Greenwood Homes to come and build the promontory, you know, we hope that it attracts people to come and do that with their businesses. So I think Dr. Pope's right, that this aspect of it at least, which I forget if it's number 2 or 3, but sounds like it's time, you know, that one needs to be tabled and really figured out, because I think and the reason I just want to stress it's so important is because that leads into our comprehensive plan and what we use to tell people what to do in our town. So we should clear this up. And then if we can agree to do that, we could probably hash through some of these other ones. It initiated some questions for me, like I had to search for it because it's a little different looking on my iPad. But on page 76, paragraph 4, section 4, second paragraph, there will be no increase in non-point source pollution load. So, like, I can't tell that was related to anything in the staff report. So I just want to, you know, I have to ask then is there a reason for that, or is that from the state code, or?
The second paragraph of 4, that is not a process that we go through where we require them to do that sort of analysis.
Yeah, so to your point, like, number 1 would be there is no more preliminary site plan conference. Number 2 would be we updated sewer systems with new language from our adopted ordinance. And number 4 would be finally the appeals process. 1, 3, and 4 are like, okay, we approve those, because I don't think that really matters. It's the second one that's in there that's throwing me off.
Right, but I'm not as savvy as you are, Dr. Pope, to be honest with you. And what I'm getting at, I understand fat soils and grease, but when I try to go through this and piece through, I got 4 items on a list, and I'm trying to figure out what change is specific to which one. And we got this one that's one-lined all throughout it because it's a word change or what have you. So I got some more questions. It's just really hard to. Okay, so F. Well, let me see. Yeah, F and G. So just to be clear, because some's highlighted, some's green, some's red. That's all basically, but it's all going away, except for 2 and 3. So it's and then. Okay, 1 is changing, 2 and 3, well, 1's deleting and changing, 2 and 3 is changing, but then we have 2 that's not going away. So is all this being replaced by the checklist, Article 10 checklist? Does that sum that up?
I'm not sure where you are.
I'm on page 78, section, I'm sorry. It goes from C to G. My notes were for, okay, maybe it is C, F, G, and H. So F and, then down into.
The reason why it jumps from C to G is because this jumps, originally it was jumping back and forth between major and minor. We wanted to organize it where you have uses require minor, here are your requirements, and then major, here are your requirements. So that's why the G section is in there twice and it's redlined because it got relocated earlier in the article.
Okay. So, well, all right, so we're talking about Charlie on page 78. Okay. This change is for what Dr. Pope is talking about, correct?
These are the uses that would require a minor site plan.
Yeah. So hard to jump around on here.
So then the question is does number 1, Virginia code does not allow for preliminary site plan pre-conference. That doesn't really affect anything else written in that document other than you just got to take it out of there because it's in that section. So that's really not going to affect major and minor site plans. It's just a blanket statement. So that's not doing anything to C or G.
Okay, I get that. Yeah,
And
so.
when you do the ordinance for the appeals process is defined to the Board of Zoning Appeals, not the Planning Commission. That was a typo, but I thought that appeal went back to the circuit court.
So
BZA.
because the designated agent is now the zoning administrator, the appeal of the zoning administrator's decision would go to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Okay. That's fine, but that doesn't really affect anything in the rest of the document. And then the sewer systems and all of that stuff, that's technical engineering documentation that I have no idea. I'm just saying yes to you because I'm assuming that our engineers have looked at it and said, this is what we got to change it to because I have no clue. So that doesn't really affect the verbiage of minor and major site plans.
It's identical to the verbiage that's in the Chesapeake Bay ordinance.
Yes. So those 3 things I think are easy to approve and then table the minor and major site plans so we can look at this more, in my opinion, or ask Ms. Clary to give me examples of other things that could be included in the minor site plan that makes it a little bit more spelled out of who's eligible for a minor site plan and then everything else goes to a major. But so I agree. There's a lot of confusion because there's 1, 2, 3, and 4 all within the same paragraph. But I think that 1, 3, and 4 are, to me, there's so whats that really don't affect anything. One of them's legal because it's a Virginia code issue. 2 of them are legal because it's a Virginia code issue.
Yeah, Vice Chairwoman Smith, if I may. Yeah, I just think I wanted to comment on that, just that on a long ordinance with a lot of changes, and there's easy ones. So, if you can just give us the softballs like without the spaghetti, you know, it would be a little easier. I'm just saying, because I'm not as savvy as you are for sure, or any of the experienced members. You know, I spent a lot of time trying to read through this and grasp it, and trying to understand unintended consequences of things, and then trying to look at something that's from an article, from a Virginia state required change, and something that's not, and figure out if they are intertwined and have any effect on each other. Just, it makes it really difficult for someone that's less savvy and time consuming.
So you had asked to distinguish between the two. The highlighted was the staff changes that we had made that were not part of the change to Virginia code. Those were just, they stayed redlined.
So, clarification, Mr. Cutler, you would say, would you like the staff to bring this back as this thing is, where is that page, Lincoln? So you would say, Article 11, number 1, this. That would be one item to discuss and vote on. Number 2 would be Article 11, number 2, sentence number 2. That would be another article or line item agenda on our agenda. And then number 3, number 4, where each one is an individual line item.
Yes, sir. And you know, not to harp on it, but it takes a lot of time to get through 614 pages, 612 pages, and you know, when you hadn't done it for, I don't know how many, 8 years, 12 years, you know, whatever, it takes some effort. And if it's complex, you know, it's real easy if you put the softballs all in one, but then when when you mix a bunch of softballs together, it's not so much. So I understand, and thank you for the work to do it, and it's difficult work to do, and that's probably why you're doing them all together, but it really makes it a little hard to parse through. Thank you.
I'm ready to go.
All right, so for the direction of this particular, what is this? This is a text amendment discussion. I hear the desire to have it brought back to us with sections so that we can look at the different sections.
So, Ms. Clary, is it possible to bring this article back to us as number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, even though you see it all within one paragraph because it's all within one ordinance? Is it possible? So
Or
it's clear of what we're voting on.
Right, group like items alike.
Vice Chairwoman Smith, I would say, I was mostly mentioning that as a future thing. Mm-hmm. I would say that if the commission has a full understanding of 1, 3, and 4 and wants to work on number 2, you know, to not repeat, the worst work is rework, you know. I think we've gotten there. If we have, I would suggest that we move on and just bring back the site plan stuff, because I think that is critically important, because we've identified that as a area that we want to see change. So I think it's really critically important that we make that. And again, you know, just Ms. Clary, as you're working through that, I don't know what the answer is. I think Dr. Pope's experience certainly lends to it, but I would just urge that we write this commercial site plan, small minor site plan piece, and think much in the way we thought of the new zoning for the work complex over there behind the plant, that we think of, you know, who's going to be doing these businesses, and I think a lot of them are going to be small local businesses. So just smartly thinking through the barriers to completion or the barriers to entry that we create for our citizens to get into these places where we've said we want things to happen in this section. So I just want to stress that we try to think through it through that lens for our small business owners, and smart and wise, but not difficult barriers to overcome as you faced for our small business owners that maybe even smaller than your business. Thank you.
So what I gathered from Dr. Pope was to include under C, uses requiring a minor site plan, remodeling of commercial structures may qualify as a minor site plan if, in the opinion of the zoning administrator, it is in conformance with the intent of this article.
That's one of it, yes, but what about light industrial type of stuff as well? So you got a couple things right there on Battery Park Road, you know, the steel fabrication place, the pipe place, there's another light industrial, is it over by Farmer Service?
Those
But
would still
suppose
fall
if they
under
want to
commercial.
Add on something minor, I don't know what's major, minor versus all that, but I want to make sure those businesses also have it. I mean, Farmer Service says, we need a new outbuilding, do I need a whole new site plan for that?
That would fall under the commercial structures,
Just want to make sure that commercial structures captures all the zoning ordinances.
only for the commercial districts.
Yeah, and Vice Chairwoman Smith, if I may.
Yes.
Yeah, that made a little light bulb go off just real quick. You know, we're seeing improvements happen to our other businesses. That's some of the side effects of growth and some of the new businesses, Kroger paving their parking lot, so on and so forth. And I suspect, you know, that's what we're going to see is some of those businesses, some of those traditional long-term businesses that you're referencing are going to need to expand. So yeah, I think getting this straightened out for our small businesses, again, critical.
I agree. So with that said, I will entertain a motion to approve all of the items with the exception of major and minor site plan, which you'll come back with.
So let me
Verbiage
ask a
on
question before we make a motion. Do we have amount of time that we have since the public hearing to act on this?
Our zoning ordinance currently is in conflict with state code.
Yeah,
So we've got to get
and we
that.
did the public
Since
hearing. I just
July.
wondered, did we have to do something in a certain time for public hearing as well?
We've already had the public
No, I
hearing,
know. Do we
so
have to act?
it is not a
after that?
special use permit, or it's a staff-initiated text
Okay.
amendment.
Well, I think, so we won't have to have another public hearing because we're passing on 3 or 4 items but keeping one back. I think that's where we could run into the time conflict if we spent 2 or 3 meetings trying to hash this out. Would we just had to have another public hearing on the site plan issue, or?
I'd have to go back and look at the advertisement. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it just seems like a procedural consideration that
Right.
I think what you're bringing up,
And
Mr. Yoko.
we are returning for
Well,
that
it-
special meeting on the 23rd, so.
And just as a reminder, this is to bring our ordinances in compliance with state code. And I think in D, on page 83, the things we're concerned about, I think a lot of this passes to the zoning administrator. This changes to give the zoning administrator wide leeway in determining what requires a major or minor site change. We're trying to be specific. I think we're running into trouble with state code trying to be specific with this.
I don't think state code designates minor or major site plans, that's just a local thing.
Vice Chairwoman Smith, if I may.
Yes.
I think if you look at it, so the first one is the state code, the second one is the one we're talking about, and it's not state code, and then the 3 and 4 items are, well, the 4th item state code and the 3rd item sewers is just making it reflect so the only one that the only thing of this that we're drafting essentially is the site plan aspect of it. The rest of it is all predetermined for us, if you will. Is that correct, Ms. Clary?
Correct. And just to clarify, beyond the remodeling of commercial structures that may qualify as a minor site plan, is there other items that you wanted included, or is this something that could be recommended with the inclusion
the
of that
motion.
language.
Right.
Well, I don't think putting a limitation of 1,000 square feet is appropriate, although I think a percent might be, but I don't know the right square footage. But so if I'm about 5,000 square feet and I wanted to do 1,000, that'd be a 20% addition to my building, roughly, if my math's right. But I don't know if 20%, that just 1,000 square feet added to 5,000, 20% just doesn't seem like very much. But if you've got a 400 or an 800 square foot home on Church Street and you want to add, 2,000 square feet to it because you've got the space on the lot to do it, I don't know. I don't think 1,000 square feet's a reasonable number. And then the other number within the site plan stuff is 10 parking spaces of some sort. If you're going over a certain number of parking spaces, there's another trigger for a major site plan derived off of parking spaces. I got to find it, but there's something in here about that. Enlargement of parking lot, increasing number of parking spaces by 10. I don't know, that seems awfully low. And if it's an increase over, then I don't know what the right number on that is. So if you're going to talk about, are there other changes because you want to get this done tonight, there's still some little details that need to be looked at.
Again, that's why we did include that discretionary waiver, so that we can waive that. We don't want to be in a position where we have outlined every single potential
Right.
instance, and then we have a small business that we just didn't think of that comes that would not necessarily need that major site plan.
Right,
Vice
I'd
Chair
also
Wood.
tell you 10 parking spots is going to be over 2,500 square feet disturbed anyway.
Okay, well, that's fine if it hits some sort of threshold like that based on square area, that's okay, but I don't know, it just seemed like not very much.
Vice Chairman Smith, if I may, it even sounds like this section of the code might be worth, I mean, there's a lot of things and considerations that you're talking about for different, parking, size, all these things that are triggering this transition, the site plan transition or what have you. We might just need to break this down line by line and see, does this line make sense for our population to even be in here, or should we delete it? And then if we should, what should we replace it with? It may need to be, thoroughly revisited if there's this many questions about it.
But to be clear, site plans aren't coming back to the planning commission, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And taking into consideration what Mr. Yoko said about, the governor's comment about the restrictions that local governments are putting in to hinder what the state legislation is intended to do. So I think we're going to run into trouble if we get into the weeds.
If we
If the site plan really isn't coming to us.
Well, the state legislation though is about residential growth. We were talking about commercial renovation and the impacts of that, of having to do a major versus minor site plan. And
But there's still required site plans, correct? Commercial or residential, right? Correct? Okay. And if you look at number 20 again, D, on page 83, it gives the zoning administrator a lot of leeway. Any issue that they perceive, that the community development and planning department perceive, any issue, that gives them a lot of leeway into addressing what to do with a site plan. That doesn't come to us, the planning commission.
And also, just to add to that, this is not, Isle of Wight County for their building department has their own set of requirements for the applicant.
It doesn't matter if it comes before the planning commission or not, because even if I was completely conforming and she still made me do a site plan, yeah, she would never see it, but I still got to pay the $35,000 to $55,000 for the site plan. Even though you don't see it, she sees it. But my contention is, and she's not going to like this, is it's a document that is just for a checkbox that really does not go anywhere other than her desk, stamp it, and say, I've treated Dr. Pope the same way I've treated Wendy's and McDonald's and everybody else to make me spend that amount of money just to check a box, when that document really is, in my opinion, not super important of complying with stormwater management, square footage, this, that. You can get all of that off of a survey. I don't need to pay a site plan engineer that amount of money that you can get off of something that's just a simple survey. It's
That would go back-
really just a checkbox.
Yeah, but that would go back to the zoning administrator's determination if it's minor or major.
That is correct. It goes all back to her to make the decisions. But if something is in writing, at least somebody can come back to say, in your ordinance, you allow us to do this. Are you sure I have to do a major site plan? You sure there's not a workaround? It says right here, I might be able to do that if I'm only going to put in 5 parking spaces, or I only want to do X number of square feet addition. Please don't make me do a major site plan. But she can say, nope, I'm going to make everybody do a major site plan. It comes down to, at least if nothing else, I don't even know if this is Virginia code. If she doesn't want to make the decision, come before us and say, are we going to make you do a major site plan? Isn't that what we just did for Virginia Cabinet Company? How hard are we going to be on him when he has to expand and rezone to do an addition to his building? We said, look, we're going to keep this as simple and easy as it can be. Don't do any more than you have to. We made that decision a month ago or 2 months ago, did we not? All I'm asking for is leeway here for other businesses that are going to expand. I can't expand anymore. I'm landlocked. I'm retiring in 10 to 15 years. This is going to settle me. I'm not doing a single thing. So this will satisfy me for the rest of my career. But I'm trying to make sure that other businesses that wish to do something have a way to do that with minimal expense. So.
And I think with the words that are in here as they're changed, it gives them the option to seek that relief. I think it's here.
I'm not sure why. I mean, I agree, it does, but what you're talking about is the absence of guidance leads you to seek guidance, and you're not going to figure that out until you see the price tag.
Right.
And then you might see the price tag and then look back at the guidance and say, oh, the absence didn't trigger me to go look at it, so I'm going to spend $35,000 on a site plan instead. I think that is the dilemma. Like, yes, is it there? Are we all agreeing and clear on the language in this zoning ordinance? No, we're all have talked about tons of questions for it. So, I think it's pretty clear that it needs to change. I don't think there's.
Again, is there a motion to be made that Mr. Yoko started?
So I was making a motion that we recommend favorable approval of the modifications of Article 11 as amended by adding the statement.
Remodeling of commercial structures may qualify as a minor site plan if, in the opinion of the zoning administrator, is in conformance with the intent of this article. To uses requiring a minor site plan, Section C.
As stated.
It works with me.
So a motion is made. Is anyone wanting to second that?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Ms. Clary, would you call for the question, please?
Dr. Bevan?
Yes.
Mr. Bryan?
Yes.
Dr. Pope?
No.
Mr. Yoko?
Yes.
Mr. Cutler?
No.
And Vice Chair Smith?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm a little confused. I thought that it added text address your problem. You saying it doesn't?
She said, as in Section C, there are no guidelines in Section C. I'm confused about that. I want to see it in writing. I want to read it, and I want to think about it. I'm not ready to vote yes on something and say it's done.
Well,
But y'all passed it,
vote's
so.
been taken, yeah. Vote has been taken at this point. We do have another chance to review it after Ms. Clary has made these changes.
Correct. Staff can still continue to
Right.
work to provide updated languages, in addition to including that language that was stated in the motion under Section C.
All right. So that was item 11. It is now 9:30, and we're at the point where, we're often at the point, we really have more to discuss. And it's getting pretty late, and therefore, that's why the chairman requested a special planning commission meeting. So if that's to everyone's agreement, I will entertain a motion as such.
So you adjourning the meeting? I will not be here for the special meeting. I am out of town, out of country, so I will not be here for that meeting on September 23rd.
Okay?
Same here.
Vice Chairwoman
You
Smith.
won't be here?
Will not be here.
Vice Chairwoman Smith, I just want to say about, I will be at the special meeting. But as far as routine work goes, a routine discussion, I feel like a special meeting happens for a special reason. It's something that requires immediate action or leadership to be involved. So while I support having the special meeting for the things that came before us that need to proceed, but things that are like study, work session kind of stuff, I think when we have a special meeting, we send a message to our citizens that we're doing something special. If we're reviewing text amendments, I don't think that's special. I think it would be more appropriate for us to schedule a work session.
Well, there's two things that I see with that. Number one, we need to get in compliance with state code. All that came in July 1. Here we are 3 months later. We're still not ready, or 2 months later, sorry. We're not in compliance. The other thing is that we can't vote at a work session. We can vote at a special meeting. And number three, the chairman requested this special.
Totally understand. I completely understand, but the special meeting has already been set, so shifting additional things to that special meeting because we didn't have time to do them tonight, I don't think is appropriate. And yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
So you're not in favor of adjourning? You want to continue on?
I am in favor of adjourning, and if we need to move these things to our next meeting, I would support that. But as far as having another meeting with all our volunteers, we were paid, but with all of our folks and our staff to come in and prolong another special meeting instead of prolonging this meeting or our next meeting, I view those things differently.
Well, considering we will have a quorum for this special meeting, I think it's appropriate that we keep it on the books as planned.
Well, I'll say for the record, I didn't know there was a special meeting. I got word of it through the grapevine. And so I would have said at the response that I wasn't available on the 23rd. And was this a combined meeting with the town council, or is this just special planning commission meeting?
Planning commission meeting.
Okay. Somebody told me we had a combined meeting with the town council.
Not this time.
I don't care, y'all do what you want to. I can't be here, I'm out of country. I planned it 9 months ago, so.
Well, and that's where you should go. Enjoy that.
Can I go with you?
That's right, yes.
Do we need a motion to table the subdivision ordinance?
Yes, and I would make sure that it's noticed on the for your next notice requirements to make sure it's included on the special meeting agenda.
So we do need a motion. All right, we need a motion to table the subdivision ordinance to our special meeting,
Items 12, 13.
12, 13, and 14. Is there a motion?
Can I give you the motion if I'm not going to be here? I'll give you the motion that we can postpone the necessary ordinances and changes till the next special planning commission meeting on September 23rd.
All right, there is a motion. Is there a second?
I'll
Let me-
second.
But I want to be clear now.
Okay,
We're out of compliance, correct?
that's right.
How much time do we have to play with this?
We had until July 1st, so we are behind.
Yes. How much further are we going to push this?
Vice Chairman Smith, which one are we out of compliance on? Number 12?
Correct.
Yes, the matrix and
The
density.
subdivision ordinance with the designated agent as a zoning administrator.
Is that the only change?
We just approved it for another ordinance,
That
correct?
was in Article 11. This would be the entire subdivision ordinance.
But it's only the mandated change by,
No, sir. As we went through, there were items that had to be updated as well.
okay, okay,
Articles 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 7.
go back to.
Right. So, there is a motion and a second to postpone these items for our special meeting. Would you call for the vote, please, Ms. Claire?
Yes. Mr. Yoko?
No.
Dr. Pope?
I guess, yes. I mean, what are you going to say? Yes.
Mr. Cutler?
No,
Mr. Bryan?
I'm a little lost.
Do I need to clarify the motion?
Yes.
Please.
The motion is to table items 12, 13, and 14 until the next meeting, which would be the special meeting on the 23rd.
And 12 involves the compliance with state code.
Correct.
And what's our alternative?
We finished discussing it on September 23rd.
No, what's the alternative to that if we don't table it?
We can finish discussion
We
again
do it now?
tonight and vote on it. And,
In other words, it would not be good to press it past the 23rd, which, in my opinion, is not good anyway.
but the motion has not passed, and I can entertain an alternate motion.
I would be happy to withdraw the motion if necessary.
Is there an alternate motion?
Hold on, is this legal?
If
Ms.
there's not
Clary's
an
cringing
alternate
over there.
motion, then we would just continue discussing the item.
Okay, all right, there's not an alternate motion, and Dr. Pope has withdrawn his motion. So we will move on to,
Did you withdraw your motion?
Yes, I
He
said
did.
I'd be
Okay.
happy to withdraw my
did.
motion if we need to continue to discuss this tonight.
so we're going
And
to move
finish
on
the
to
agenda.
item 12, which is the text amendment for Smithfield subdivision ordinance and town design standards. Ms. Clary, can we have your report, please?
Yes, thank you. This is a proposed text amendment to Article 2, bringing our general regulations for subdivision requirements in line with VA code, which recently replaced the Planning Commission, and instead the designated agent as the reviewer of site plans. Article 3 was updated to include HRPDC and VDOT regulations. Article 4 was also updated to the designated agent and included additional authorities for regulations. Article 5 was updated to the designated agent, removed the requirement for a planning conference. We updated review times and number of copies required. Article 6 requires town council to approve private streets. Article 7 clarifies bonding requirements. Article 8 was repealed as it is repeated in Article 11 of the zoning ordinance. We updated our checklist for the preliminary plats, public improvement plans, and final plats. And finally, we incorporated our design standards into our subdivision ordinance as Article 13. However, it was requested to not be number 13 and instead be number 8. We do suggest a robust discussion and a favorable recommendation to Town Council. I will also include, there is a notation there that previously Dr. Pope had asked the list of reviewees to include police, Isle of Wight County, the museum, schools, and other utilities.
Vice Chairman Smith, can I ask a question, please?
Yes.
Okay, so it looks like you got them split up by article number, correct? And that was kind of how I went through them. So Article 2 is the same thing we just approved, is that correct? Or as regards to the planning and zoning administrator language?
That is correct for the designated agent.
And that is the item that we are out of code compliance on as well, correct? Or are
Correct.
there others? While you're thinking about that, Mr. Eldridge, can you just clarify, so the General Assembly takes action and the law changes on the day they sign the law. If they don't provide guidance on us to, give us a deadline or tell us to change our code, the state law is active, our law is null and void. Is that correct? Which one has precedence?
Well, that's easy. The state law has.
State.
What happens
I could answer
if
that.
it's not, if you don't update is kind of an area, I mean, you're out of compliance. It's not good to be out of compliance. You kind of can't enforce it. That's the big thing. So that's the, I guess, the fallout of your zoning ordinance being out of compliance. You can't enforce the zoning ordinance especially those sections that are clearly out of.
Sure, we couldn't enforce our old zoning ordinance, but we would have the state law that would be in place. But so my question is, they don't give us any timeline, people only meet every 30 days. Is it unreasonable that it takes some time to get through this and pass it? It's no simple task even for the zoning administrator to literally make the physical changes. So what is reasonable here to tackle something like this?
Once it's passed, I believe, and I'd have to pull it up, there is a time where it takes effect, and I believe it was the July first, yeah. So, I mean, the timeline they sometimes give a line that explains the exact timing, but for your question, the timing is, do you want to enforce it, or do you want to be able to enforce your zoning code? And that's the question. That's your issue.
But in this Article 2, there's nothing to enforce. It's simply a naming or a responsibility convention that's changing.
So what would happen there is you're kind of putting yourself in the situation of asking, for example, for site plan review or something like that. You're putting yourself in that position to ask who does it go to, and you have no authority to give it to you as the planning commission after they take your name completely out of it. So then if you haven't designated that agent, you run into another problem there. So it kind of puts you up in an area where, because you don't have it, I don't want to opine on it in open session, but yeah, I'll leave it at that.
It sounds like if we don't adopt it, we have no ordinance to fall back on or to enforce. So we need to.
I'll stray away from giving an opinion in open session.
Okay, I understand.
But effectively, on July 2nd, we had no ordinance either, right? So that's why I bring it up. But if Article 2 is the only one that we're out of compliance on, and we all fully understand that, I think if, in the interest of what you were suggesting, if you want to manage Article 2 at this moment, that is the one that's out of compliance. Is that correct, Ms. Clary?
That is one of them. The only item in Article 2 was the approval on the final plats changed from the town manager to the zoning administrator.
Okay.
Now, are you going to review all the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission change to validate all those? So you're good with those?
I'll submit my sideline notes for those.
That's what I was going to say. I have the little note on 4 steps instead of 5 steps.
is that on what page are the 5 steps?
Article 582, wherever that is.
582.
But that was in the design standards, you said?
How about this instead, Ms. Clary? Which one of these is identical to what we just discussed? The same, I mean, well, are they all related to, all of these line items are all related to the same July 1st change, or no?
No, the highlighted ones are the staff changes.
Okay.
So Article
Or-
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, are they state changes?
Some of them are.
But there's some minor changes in there that staff recommends as well.
Correct. For example, one of our requirements for as-built is we require Mylar drawings, which is a little...
When's the last time you've seen a Mylar drawing? Exactly.
And so we did update that to 5 record as-built, including a digital file as opposed to a floppy disk.
It's on page 158.
So that was about housekeeping, essentially. Would you say 158?
158.
I am
Correct,
comfortable saying that this article or this agenda item for tonight is an administrative article as opposed to the previous ones that were more not administrative. And so therefore, I am willing to accept the changes even though they are lengthy and numerous, because I trust that these are mostly dealing with the state and clerical clarifications.
Ms. Claire, are there any items in here that you feel you should point out that we really need to review?
Contentious.
Anything that might be contentious? Thank you.
I didn't see anything in my review.
Again, staff's
I
goal
didn't
in this
either.
project was to streamline what the ordinance says in our internal processes.
Right.
And some minor changes due to innovation. Yes? I mean, we're not using a floppy disk anymore. We're not using Mylar paper for drawings anymore, that kind of stuff.
Right. Well, there is the insertion of appeal to circuit court. That's on page 168, item G2. And that states, well, if you all can read it,
That's a legal thing, that's a
that
state
is
issue.
illegal.
Yeah.
And I just bring it to your attention that if we disapprove, or if our zoning administrator denies anything that is not spelled out as being allowable, that the developer can take it to court, stating that it was arbitrary or capricious. So, anything else?
Is there anything in the checklist that would need to be updated from what we just did in the prior section?
No, we tried to make sure that they all aligned.
Yeah, we changed the one, that just changed the it changed,
can't hear you.
it changes,
Right.
oh, it changes the what needs to go, but not what is in it. So the checklist should still
Right.
align with what we did. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
I will say, we did leave planning commission approval for like non-conforming lots where it said it may be approved, and waiver of sidewalks, so that would still have to come before the planning commission.
All right.
That's on
And-
a particular page?
The first one's on page 140. The first one I had noticed was on page 147, where it discusses sidewalks.
And then 149 for non-conforming blocks.
Any other items that could be seen as needing discussion here with Planning Commission? Anything that might be construed as contentious?
The only other suggestion I had was with Dr. Pope's suggestion of including those additional reviewing entities, including language, including but not limited to, so that we're not pigeonholed just to those agencies on the list.
All right. And could you repeat those agencies, please? That you suggested?
I'm looking for where it is.
It's on page 108, 107.
Thank you. So those on the right, Dr. Pope suggested including the police, Isle of Wight County Museum, schools, other utilities. We would just include, may include any or all, including but not limited to the following.
Okay. All right. And you had already inserted those in there, thank you. Anything else? And I ask because what may sound reasonable to me may not be reasonable. Because I'm not an engineer and I'm not a planning administrator. Thank goodness.
So are we ready to make a motion? All right.
Yes, I will entertain a motion, please.
I make a motion that we approve the subdivision ordinance text amendment with the one modification to change 5 steps to 4 steps with all other changes as presented.
Including Dr. Pope's recommendation of
Sure.
including the additional
So-
agencies along with staff's recommendation of not limited to.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, there's been a motion. Need a second?
And a second.
Is that Dr. Pope? All right. Ms. Clary, would you call for the
You second?
vote, please?
Dr. Bevan,
Yes.
Mr. Bryan,
Yes.
Mr. Cutler,
Yes.
Dr. Pope,
Yes.
Mr. Yoko,
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. The next two items are discussion items on land use and density. Which pleasure, do you want to move on with those? We are here.
Well, I don't think they have a deadline.
They do
don't have
not.
a deadline.
Okay.
All right,
I would make a motion that we table these two items until our next regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting in October.
Second.
motion has been made and seconded that we table items 13 and 14 to our next regular meeting in October, which would be October 8th. Could you call for the question, please?
Mr. Cutler,
Yes.
Mr. Bryan,
Yes.
Dr. Bevan,
Yes.
Mr. Yoko,
Yes.
Dr. Pope.
I have our next scheduled meeting would be the 14th of October.
Did I say,
Yeah, that's council
yeah, I
meeting.
looked at town council, sorry.
Okay.
It is the 14th.
All right, because I will be out of town that week as well. So I'm making sure it's the 14th
Yes,
because
it
I'm
is
in
the
town that
14th.
week.
It is the
Yes,
14th.
I vote that yes in favor of moving it.
Vice Chair Smith.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we still have the September 23rd meeting that involves some applications. Yes.
Correct.
All right. The next item on the agenda is the report from our Community Development and Planning Director.
Yes, just a quick reminder, the November commission meeting is on Wednesday, the 12th. And again, the special meeting for September 23rd at 6:30 PM. Thank you.
All right. With all that said, I can entertain a motion for adjournment.
We don't have minutes?
We have no minutes. We have hours, but we have no minutes.
Make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
I second.
Yep.
It's been made and seconded that we adjourn the meeting.
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. We are adjourned. Thank you.